Oh.
Wait, so I don't block. How's that?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Evening, I call this meeting of the Town of Thompson Planning and Zoning Commission to order. It is 7:02 p.m. Here in the Merrill Sinay Community Room of Thompson Town Hall. It's Monday, May 23rd, 2022. We will begin with a roll call. Randy Blackmer.
Mike Vogel.
Kaiser.
John Rice.
Ray Williams.
Jane Salcy.
John B. Linky.
Alvin Hill.
Joseph Purdy Brown. We will sit Kais for David Poplasky. Kais or for David Poplasky. Item number 3, public hearing. As we begin the public hearing, I remind anyone who's here to speak in the public hearing to state your name and address as you begin your comments here at the microphone. And we will recognize anyone on Zoom who wishes to speak as well. Everyone will have 3 minutes to speak. And we ask that comments are addressed to the chair in a civil and respectful manner. This is the public hearing for,
Can I ask you a question? What about the applicant? They have more than 3 minutes, right?
yes,
Okay.
application 22-14, applicant Hani Youssef, property owner at 292 Riverside Drive, map 87, block 95, lot 39, zone TCDD, 1.93 acres. Request a special permit to operate an adult use cannabis dispensary according to Town of Thompson zoning regulations. Article 4E, Thompson Corridor Development District, Section 2, Table of Permitted Use, number 20, Article 5A, C, Adult Use Cannabis, and Article 3A, Section 4A, B, and C. For the application.
Hi, guys. Hey,
Hi.
Yusuf, for who don't know me, I own the Riverside Pizza in Thompson. My son Randy, my youngest Tyler, and family and friends. And my brother Mishu, that's who's gonna be involved in this cannabis business. So we asked for a special permit so we can operate out of 274 Riverside Drive where the old Buster's restaurant used to be. As far as we know, the regulation is for it.
Well, you complied with the cannabis regulation for the town of Thompson, yes. With the exception that you need your approval from the state.
We applied, sorry, we applied for the lottery. They have a lottery process. We applied for that and ended May 11. Not sure when they're gonna answer us back, but that's the first step. If we do not get accepted through the lottery process, then they're gonna open the applications to apply for a regular permit.
Could you need a little explanation? I talked to the consumer department today and there's 2 types of lotteries. And they're in one of those 2 types of lotteries. And when that's finished, it is opened up, like Tom said. This General Assembly this session passed a bill that they are not going to limit the facilities for the dispensary. Before it was based on population, and the only thing passed is the General Assembly, and the only thing the bill is waiting for is for the governor's signature. So technically, you can have more than 1 dispensary in your community unless the particular Planning and Zoning Commission decides to limit the number in their community. Any questions on that? But so I don't know if you want to start showing in your plans right here. This is site plan. You have a copy of it.
Here, we're both, yeah.
Now, that site plan is not online. That's the agricultural, that's our architecture design. But this is the old site plan.
So that's not.
So it's gonna be an existing,
So if you want to go
Existing
ahead and
building.
explain it to them.
that's the existing foundation where the old Buster restaurant used to be. And we're planning on changing nothing, putting another building on top of the existing foundation.
Yes, Mr. Hill.
Is that you're gonna put the dispensary on the old foundation?
Yes, sir.
And you want us to show the,
You ready for that?
yep, we're ready for that.
Where'd I put it?
Want to explain that layout and
So I'm not sure how many people went in the dispensary, but it's very well regulated. The state did it, so not every Josh Mo can just walk in there and just buy cannabis. So that when you walk in from the door, that's a checkpoint. You have to check valid ID. And all the regulation has to be met before they even enter the building. So when you enter the building, there was a counter on the right, was all the product. Then on the left here, it's gonna be a little lounge area. But that's not until the state approves that part.
Sorry, so the entrance area is that lower middle.
Yes, sir.
section.
With it, yeah.
Ms. Elsie.
Do you go in one door and when you leave, do you leave through a separate door? Okay, and you're gonna have security in there?
So the regulation is very strict on security. Glad you mentioned that. They have it so you can't just buy a couple of cameras from eBay, put them on the building and call it a day. You have to hire a security guard to be at the door. You have to hire a security system that is 24/7 civilian on the building. So as far as that goes, I'm very happy that they did it that way because that's the way we were thinking about doing it anyway. We want to make sure it's safe. One of the reasons the state regulated it is because, and I'm sure a lot of people heard, some people like that, we got like at least 10 people that I know of, they buy drugs because they got hurt or whatever, and we go buy it from somebody that is laced towards fentanyl or whatever, and all kinds of problems. So the state regulated it so they know what's been sold to the public, it's safe, it's not being played about.
All right, where will you be getting your products from?
So that's another story for another day, but we just purchased land on Pompey Road,
Okay,
and we are gonna try to do the cultivating, micro cultivating out there. Sorry.
Randy.
That's my oldest.
Mr. Berger.
So again, with the supplies where we're gonna be getting everything from, we actually are in full alliance with another dispensary in Biddeford, Maine. They use organic nutrients, a whole filtration system, everything. Basically, we try to have as less waste and as much as possible. They have everything the way they gotta go, like has that fee, sorry. A little bad at public speaking. But anyways, the CCC regulations are crucial. They make sure that everything's in place, make sure it's safe for your town, safe for your city. And then, like, again, we have an alliance with them, so they're gonna be helping us every step of the way, make sure that we're established properly, make sure we're doing the right things, make sure it's going smoothly, and make sure, most of all, everyone's happy with how
The way it's running. It's not gonna be coming from me, he's gonna help us to produce it here. Again.
okay, is there a limit how many people can be in the building at one time?
As
As the dispensary,
Yes.
people that are allowed in, you can only have so many people in the building and the others would have to wait outside, is that correct?
Yes, there is a certain limit, obviously in the space area.
Yeah.
That's given. Anything extra, they'll be have to wait outside. From what I'm familiar with mass cultivation stores, they limit they have them wait outside the door, and then once one comes out, another will come in.
Okay,
And again, there's no error for a reentry, if that was ever a question, because once their IDs are scanned, they're already in the system, they can only buy and purchase whatever the state regulates it as. So there'll be they can go and come back home, they can't do that. We'll have that in the system, we'll be able to regulate, and that's also what security is there for as well.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hill.
Mr. Yozen. Are you aware that well, first off, I looked at Senate Bill 1201, and there are over 8,000 lines in that particular bill. As of July 1st, 2022 coming up. I want to give this to you because what it says, while these protections are more limited than those recently recognized in neighboring states, employers shall review current policies and practices to ensure that they are prepared for the changes July 1st, 2022, the effective date of new employment provisions. In other words, all your employees have a particular responsibility.
They're all gonna be trained.
And you're aware of all this?
Yes, I'll
Okay.
take it, thank you. Yeah, they all have to go to a class, I think it's a 3 or 6 months class, they got familiar with all that you can, it's not the pizza store.
Now, you're going to be licensed annually?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
and I'm sure most of you guys know the profit that brings into town. I mean, we're talking about possible $750,000 in revenue into town. I have a receipt from a dispensary here in Mass, over, it's $100 in sale. You'll see 10% taxes, another 5% taxes, another 5% taxes. So 20% taxes goes into the town. So 10% to the state, then another 10% to the town.
Interesting.
So, because, I mean,
Now, how is it?
it's, I hate to say that, I'm glad to say this, but it's
In other words, 20% of your sales annually
annually going into town.
go to the town of Townsend?
Yes.
Well, 10%.
10% and 10% to the state.
Right, 10%, 10%.
Yeah, 10%, 10%.
It's coming, I mean, I've been in the community for 17 years. I remember when I came in to apply, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
When I remember 17 years when I came in to apply for Riverside Pizza, I came in, most of you guys were here. You guys welcomed me and it's been great. Awesome community, moved my whole family from Rhode Island. We've been part of this community for 17 years. I would like to continue serving the community. I'm not gonna lie, serving ourselves too, because the restaurant pizza is taking a toll on all of us. So if we can get something else going and if it can be, it's coming regardless. No
No, you,
disrespect to anybody, but the state is regulating it. I would hate for somebody else to come in and do this. Hopefully it will be somebody from the community.
And especially a large grand scale corporation, they'll tend to,
Hire people from out of state, hire people from.
Do you
we
have-
wanted to keep it in the community.
do you have your license now or is it pending?
We applied for the license through the lottery and they said they were gonna.
Well, the lottery's
Growing.
be drawn at the end of the month, and it's still don't have it totally clear in my head, but there's 2 systems. One is social equity drawing, and then a general drawing. Regardless of whether he gets into, you didn't apply for the social equity drawing.
So the social equity, this is an awesome system. So we did the social equity drawing for the people that is in high impacted area by the drugs. They're gonna give them 75% of this license into those towns. For one reason is because it's well-known fact that it lowers the drug dealers basically coming in and selling some Joe Schmo. So they want to regulate it so they know so the areas that's been impacted with the drugs, they're giving them 75% of those licenses. Then the other 25% is the other fact of it. That's not the social equity.
It was actually 50-50. The girl,
Is it 50-50?
yeah, the representative I talked to at community, Department of Consumer Protection told me that today.
So I applied for the general one.
So you apply for the general one. And after he's accepted, then the applicant for the state actually has 14 months to complete the application. Of course, since he's starting ahead of time, if he is drawn, then he will process the state application rapidly. But we do have time because Marla hasn't completed her wetland. And I believe I explained in my memo that she was out the week before, I was out the week, and it's just a lot of work, as you all well know. trying to put these packets together and get, everything done. So she's on it now, and you could extend the public hearing, continue the public hearing to next month. And then if you have any questions on any of the other paperwork that I just handed you, that can all be taken care of for next month too. But they do have 14 months to get their state license. But she said generally it's not going to, be that long for most people.
One of the
Ms.
questions,
To add on to this, the 14 months, you gotta keep in mind, we're still gonna put a booklet together. We're still gonna, as far as the wetland, I spoke to Marla and she said, it's an existing building, it's going on an existing lot. She was worried about the 100-year flood zone that was in. That dotted line right here is the 100-year
Right.
flood zone, and it was in. Her only concern is we have to get an Asian approval. And I filled out the application this morning. She's gonna come out, inspect it, and
Look at the plans and everything.
Ms. Alcee, Mr. Hill, and Ms. Williams.
I have a question. So it's going in where the old Jason's Restaurant was, and that's next to the miniature golf place.
correct.
Okay, I'm just thinking here, if you've got a miniature golf place with kids playing and everything else, what kind of impact is that going to have, for kids coming and seeing this and everything else? How is that going to be handled?
Can you explain that better? Like, how is it not? Like, how, I'm not expecting a kid that's playing mini golf to go there because we have it regulated. So as far as that concerned, that is a completely different business or not. That is family-oriented business. On the other side of it, it's well-regulated, secure business for adult use. It's adult use. So I don't think it's gonna interfere, but if you guys have any doubt, I can close the mini golf.
How about just a fence in between?
Yeah, that's what I was
I did
thinking,
go
a
over
fence.
to the-
That's what I was
did do that.
thinking.
It's another revenue, and it's a good thing for the town to have the mini golf there, but if it's gonna be of concern,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, some sort of separation. I mean, that's something
And there is-
down the road.
There is language in the regulations about
Okay.
it's
screening.
also in the statute,
Okay,
1201
okay,
is very emphatic that there can be no smoking or vaping. on
Within
that
cer-
particular
okay,
property,
okay,
Period.
okay,
That's in
okay,
our regs.
okay, that's in the regs.
Outside.
Yeah.
In the building, it would be okay.
Okay.
Not in the building.
No.
The employee,
Oh,
no.
nothing. Oh, nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, that's, okay, that's, yeah.
It's for retail.
The way we checked out Maine when we went to, one of our family member has an operation there. They have so much ventilation in there because people cannot even smell it outside. If people smell outside, the state will shut it down.
Yep.
So it's
Okay,
no
Yep, so
smoking
there's
inside,
no-
smoking
no,
outside.
okay.
Mr. Hill.
Now, I do have one really directed at our commission. On page 80, under, as quoted in the lines here, Article 5A, Section 7, C, adult use cannabis. Let me read it. Cannabis products, cannabis paraphernalia, cannabis establishment shall be defined according to Senate Bill 1201 and sections 1 and 141 and 142. 141 and 142, food and beverage manufacturer means a person that is licensed to own and operate a place of business that acquires cannabis and creates food and beverages. That pretty much outlines what Mr. Joseph is doing.
Okay.
What I want to know, and since we don't have it in our regulations, other than SB 1201, but we're highlighting sections 141 and 142, leaving out 164 and 165, which states hybrid retailer means a person that is licensed to purchase cannabis and sell cannabis and medical marijuana products. That is precisely what Mr. Joseph is going to do.
Okay, what
It's
those
not in
numbers
our
again, Alvin?
regulations.
What the numbers that you just,
Well, it's something to pay attention to, Joe.
I mean, it's picky, but I read all 8,000 lines.
thank you.
It took me hours to do it. I
Just yet,
just wanted to make sure that
I think
there
that,
was
I
no
think I actually know the
blowback.
answer to Alvin's
on the town
question.
of
I didn't
Thompson.
understand it when he was asking me over my shoulder. I believe, Alvin, that hybrid retailer is for retailers who are dispensing both adult use, meaning recreational and medical. I think that's the hybrid, and that is not, I
That's
believe.
correct,
what
So
is-
so
So I
Mr.
think he's
Joseph is
fine.
not going to be doing that.
It's only recreational.
It's only, it's not me.
I didn't understand your question when you were asking me earlier. I'm sorry, Alvin.
Mr. Williams?
My question was about the fence, and I kind of slid it in there.
Great, excellent. Thank
I
you.
like that idea, that's a really good idea, because I thought, I'm sorry, I thought
But
you're,
Jane, I guess
you were
it's
saying
not
one or
going to
the
be
other.
hybrid.
Yeah.
But that fence would be great, that's a good idea.
Just enough to block it.
Yeah, that's what I,
You know,
yeah,
for the-
because that's where I was going too with that. Yeah, something to delineate the
Because I've been
lines.
hearing a lot of people coming in that, oh, it's next to the mini golf, I'm like, I don't see that relation,
Right,
but
but see,
when,
you're
putting
right.
the thing there to-
Marijuana products.
Yeah.
It's,
You wouldn't want it out far enough where it's blocking people's view on your
Yeah.
road,
Yeah.
you know, but,
it has to be that.
It just make it, basically making it two lots
More, so
with a divider.
That's what it
Are
is.
there
Okay.
any other questions for the? yeah,
Clarification. On the 20% and the 10%,
Yes.
is 20% go to the town and 10% to the state?
No,
10 and
10 and
10.
10.
10 to the state, 10 to the town. Yep.
Okay.
Are there any, is there any of the other, before we,
It's a tough evaluation.
Mr. Krogel?
The only question I have, well, I have many in my thoughts, but the 1,000-foot distance from a school playground. I know there's a daycare up the road. I'm sure it's over 1,000 feet, but has it been checked out to make sure? Because
We did.
on Robbins Road, there is one.
we didn't-
I think we checked that out when we first came in.
That before we even thought about it, we'll check the church, we'll check the daycare.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking you, tell me all your million questions they have in your head. 'Cause I wanna answer them all. I want, seriously, I want to make sure everybody is good with it. I don't want to come in and sit on anybody's fault.
As
That's
you
not our
said,
intention.
as you said, it is coming. I will not be able to stop it. We probably will not be able to stop it. It's going to come eventually. I did have concerns about the miniature golf next door, because you say it's two different things, but kids still see and they ask what's going on next door. And that's up to the parents, I guess, overall to.
In my opinion, and I'm not stepping on nobody's fault, when you go apply for a liquor license in town, it doesn't have any pushbacks, maybe a little bit pushbacks, but it has so many, and I know a good friend of mine that can speak on that behalf because he speaks in those meetings, is very well aware of that whole process. And it's a very well-known drugs more than the cannabis, and it causes plenty of harms to the body, cirrhosis of the liver, well, you guys know all about it. Cannabis, as far as studies go, and I start, wait, he studied more about it, so.
At first, I just wanted to address, obviously, there's a huge stigma against this. It's very new. Anything new coming in, there's always gonna be a lot of questions. So we understand that as a team, that what we're gonna have to do. I just did want to highlight, same as like with the daycare, there's a daycare right now on the side of a liquor store, you know? So that is, you know, no one says, no one bats an eye on that because liquor store's been around for so long. So we're here just to destigmatize that against cannabis. You know, no one's gonna be leaving, just smoking out in the parking lot. That's not how things will be done. Just to address that. And what was your, what were you going on with?
He was, we were just explaining the difference.
Okay.
between,
What,
The cannabis and the use of it, it's not as harmful in the studies.
yes, so people that are suffering from depression, anxiety, like mental disorders, like PTSD, it's just extremely beneficial for that. Glaucoma, chronic pain. you know.
Suicide rate, surprisingly, suicide rate goes down when you have something like that in town.
And surprisingly too, teen use goes down too. Per 10,000 residents, 19% decrease as shown across any city and local town.
Because you don't have drug dealers coming into the town and trying to
They have a decrease of what?
Teen use
change use of cannabis.
of cannabis with the dispensaries in place in town.
Most of the kids do it because it's something that they can get away with, go behind the police's back, but if it's already there and it's regulated and they know they can't go in and out by multiple times, it does decrease the
And
use.
it dries out the drug dealers in town. They will not have it. They won't have as much, it won't be in town as much. So this actually lowers teen use. across the board. And that's, we have here, paperwork here that shows those, where we got the sites that shows the statistics on about that. And also with the revenue that he was talking about, with the 10% going to the state and 10% going to, can I see that paper? Or the local town? Massachusetts.
Oh, Massachusetts.
It's in every corner.
They're
And for a
flow-
reason
they're
now.
flowing, it's flowing. I
It's
know.
408, but I just want to read the first year's revenue to you guys. So I have it here. So when they opened up on 2018 into May, December 2018 to May 2019, they brought in 2.9 million in local tax revenue.
That's in a half a year.
That's in a half a
6
year. A full fiscal year, they brought in 14.4 million. And then by the end of 2021, they had 51.3 million for local tax. That is extremely beneficial to your town. That helps the education, that helps Parks and Rec, helps build your community, fixing roads, all that stuff.
So there's more competition.
There's more to it than that.
Yeah, of course.
Mr.
Apparently, you're-
Sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Kroger.
apparently you believe you're going to make a lot of money out of this. I'm sure you will.
We taking it as a venture, honest to God, and this is my honest answer to you. We've been in the business, I've been in the pizza business for over 25 years. Physically, my body cannot allow me to do this anymore. That's why I put off sign off. I can't even get up most of the days. My back, I'm supposed to have a surgery, and I was talking to you earlier today about it. Supposed to have a back surgery 5 years ago. I can't because I have to be home for 6 months or 3 months. So that's why we went to Maine to check out his operation, and it seemed fitting for everything. Then Connecticut start legalizing it. I'm like, let's do
This is
this.
for you. The other aspect is, I don't know how to say this.
Go ahead, say
No,
it.
I don't
We all
know how to
adults
say
here.
it. It's like, when your son or daughter comes home and says, hey, Pop, I just lit up and it was so good, I'm gonna get baked next weekend. How do you feel about that?
How would you feel if she did it from a drug dealer? That at least there was something that she lost her life.
I'd shoot him.
But it's not just the smoking part of it. There is cream. Plenty of people use that as form of medication.
I can say, I'm not gonna stop it. I'm just.
They have to be of age.
So, ma'am, you're gonna have a moment to.
No.
They have to be of
They're
age.
supposed to be of age and he will regulate the age.
Yeah,
Still, teenagers do it.
but they can't do it in our farm.
Yeah. Mr. Blackmer?
Clarify for me, you have to grow the product or you can buy it from
It has
Maine
to
or
be in
Massachusetts?
Connecticut.
Has-
So we wanted to have a micro cultivate building on Pompey Road to grow it there and supply the dispensary that's gonna be going in that building. But you cannot buy it from any other states. It's illegal. It has to be Connecticut.
Not realize that. Mr. Williams?
I just want to go on something that Mr. Blackman just said. That's a little bit further down the road, though. Is that what you said?
Yeah, but
That he's not, that's not going to be starting right off like that. He's gonna, that's
Buy it from other people in Connecticut, but he can't buy from Mass
correct.
or.
And then further on down the road, he wants to be able to supply himself.
correct.
There are quite a few, excuse me, but there are quite a few of those places that he can buy. There is one down near Middletown, Connecticut, Rocky Hill, I believe, that grow this, so as you go by off of Route 99 and everything.
The longer vision is to try to have everything in Dawson. We'll have the micro cultivate, if you guys allow us. The micro cultivate is gonna be on Pompey Road, which is, it's farmland. We had checked on that. I'm not part of it, so that's down the road, but manufacturer there basically will grow it there, then sell it.
Mr. Rice?
What's the function of the lounge that you have there?
That's not for now, so forget about that part now, because other states in like Massachusetts starting to adopt that you can sit in there and have the mixed drinks, infused drinks or infused food. So if that happens, we'll add that on. If it doesn't happen, City of Connecticut, we'll come back here and see if you guys okay with it first. If you're okay with it, that's how maybe we can add it on. If it's not okay with it, we'll just keep doing our process the way it is.
Mr. Kroger?
You said Massachusetts is allowing that? I thought
It's starting to.
Yeah, they have not.
They have not.
Yet.
Yeah, We're just thinking ahead, that's all. But it's not like you can sit there and smoke inside.
No,
and
not yet, but within the next year will be.
Mr. Hill?
If you guys don't approve it, we don't want it.
Under this particular, our regulations and the state says, creates food and beverages. Are you planning in the future having food in this establishment and alcohol drinks?
So in Massachusetts, right now, is what they allowing is you can have it, the candy or the edibles.
Edibles, so
Yeah,
like
the edibles.
teas,
You couldn't
coffees.
have
But no drinks, no food, no
No
drinks, no
food.
food. So you cannot, even Vegas tried that and they have not. If Vegas can't do it, I don't think.
Who monitors how strong, I'm really hip on this. THC or THD or whatever the,
THC, THC.
The state,
who,
state regulates milligrams and dosage.
that would be well, yeah, but that's also established when it's growing too. I mean, yeah,
Yep,
how is that going to be monitored?
they have inspection every, they have inspection, and you have to send your samples to a lab. And the lab has to say how much in the TLC, if it's more than it is.
The
Yeah.
THC, the amount of THC, the percentage of THC also has to be monitored per strain. So every time we do a whole batch, it has to be regulated at a certain amount. So they give us those little labels that say the THC, CBD, and all the other information on it. And we'll know before the customer does exactly what's in there.
And so you're with the applicant as well.
Yeah,
And can just come and state your name for the record, please.
I'm Hans Cook. I've been with him for about
That's my older brother, my younger brother. He's not my friend.
I will be the one cooking. If this venture actually goes through, I'll be the one that's producing all the edibles with Han. So is there any other questions you need for those? Because we actually are kind of pushing for more edibles, more healthier ways to consume cannabis.
It's still smoking, but we're smoking, it's,
Yes, and I know the whole stigma about the other things with the kids getting involved, especially with candies and things like that. We're just trying to make it more pleasing for everybody, because a lot of people don't like smoking. And also the things about people being able to walk in there, walk out there, you're afraid about your kids getting involved in this too much, about the smoking and stuff like that. We are just as passionate about keeping the kids off any drugs whatsoever. That's the regulated age of 21. And we don't want any of these kids doing it as much as you don't want them to. Trust me, I'm a father. Well, my son's also been around it for the past 10 years because my wife has been at the medical card for
Since 2015.
2015.
Gloria, did you catch his name?
No,
Yeah,
It's,
sorry.
Michael Benoyer. Yeah, you're welcome.
Just spell your last name.
It's Bonoyer.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions for the applicant at this time?
just one that's related, but maybe it doesn't matter. If you have a CDL and you get stopped, you can get into a lot of trouble if you have whatever, I don't know how much of what, but
The THC in your body.
yeah.
Yeah.
How does this relate to what you're selling? If the THC you're selling, is that the amount you
Certain-
consume
yes.
that's going to create the problem?
Basically, when you consume THC, it stays in your body for a good day or two. So no matter what, no matter how much amount, you're still going to show it in your test. So it doesn't really matter. The 18%, 20%, and all those different percentages you guys probably know about, 15%, things like that. Okay. well,
Making a lot of assumptions
Basically, when you
there.
go get it, you see that percentage. Some kids, the younger ones especially, they look at that and they're just like, oh, 21, that's going to get me real messed up. It's basically all personal. Everybody has their different tolerances. Basically comparing vodka to brandy. If you guys can control your brandy, some people can't control their vodka at the same time. I mean, that's kind of how they regulate it. And as far as testing goes, I'm not sure if they have the testing on.
You can have it on site, but we look
Yeah.
into it. We have a lab there.
Yeah.
That would be state regulation
Yes,
anyway.
yeah,
not
yeah,
town.
state reg, it's a state reg,
That
yeah,
would have nothing to do with
yep,
it.
state regs.
The amount of THC that's in the product related to that question, it wouldn't matter. Any little amount would show up.
Yeah.
So the answer is stay away from
Yeah, I've never been, well, we've been tested for drugs, but nobody's ever come back positive. so.
That's good. That's good. So if you gentlemen want to have a seat, and then we'll open it at this.
Well, before you open it, so let me just, again, I don't know how much an opportunity you had to look at the plans that I had sent you with the packet. And of course, then I give you this thick information here, how he has complied with the plans and then the new set of architecture drawings. So basically, this application has to qualify under the Article 3, Section 4, A, B, and C. And that is all outlined in my my sheets here as to what my answers to everything that he has to qualify for. And then he has to comply with the regulation for the cannabis. And he is fine with the parking. I went out, actually counted the spots, and there's 58 right now. So if he keeps those 58, then he has to have 4 handicap parking. And then, like I said, as far as the flood zone, the building inspector will recommend him building on that, the existing foundation to elevate it,
Elevation.
to prevent the flooding. So, and because we need Marla's approval for the wetlands, if you wanted to take the next month to review everything and to continue the public hearing to June, you actually will need his approval, because I think, as I said in my memo, 1 day or 2 days beyond the 35-day statute.
Yeah.
So I would have to get written approval from him tonight that we could continue the public hearing.
No, you're not getting
So-
approved on that.
So what you need to do is to really look at the paperwork and see if it complies with regulations. And how comfortable you are.
Yeah.
with passing it tonight or continuing it.
That's good. Thank you.
The gentleman is receptive. I think this is the best time before we go any farther, before we go to a public meeting. In our regs, we have the 7-foot rule on the fence. If he's receptive to us, because anything over 7 feet, we gotta get a special permit. So what would be considered, would an 8-foot fence be suitable, or would you say, or a 10-foot? The reason being is the higher the better, so you can divide the line between the building and the
Mini golf.
mini golf. Short suggestion.
I think you should say something.
If you have something to say.
Can I say something?
You're with the applicant?
That's my wife.
I just-
And just state your name again,
My
please.
name is Cindy Youssef. The one thing I just gonna say is this building is a regular building. There's nothing that's gonna outwardly say this is a dispensary. It is not gonna be like marijuana leaves all over it. It's gonna look like a normal building. A normal kid playing mini golf is not gonna look at that building and think something bad's
They
going
made
on.
it the state regulated.
It's gonna look like a normal, regular building, it will look like here, you know, it's not gonna look any like a liquor store with all the flashing lights in it and, you know, beer signs all over the place, it's not gonna be like that, it's gonna look very classy, nice, where kids are not gonna know
I don't
what's in
think we're
there.
allowed to have.
And no kids would be allowed in there, so say if a parent comes in and they have their kid, the kid they wouldn't be allowed through the door. Nobody under 21 would be allowed in the establishment, or based on whatever the regulations are. I don't know if it's 18 or 21, but 21, so no one under 21, any way, shape or form would be in the building. And if they were outside and they are playing mini golf, then what kid you know is gonna look at a building and know? Yeah, I'm not saying that we won't do a fence, but I'm just saying there's nothing that's gonna outwardly show that that's a dispensary, that's all.
And the state actually took it a step further than that. You can even put a name on the building that is related.
By saying-
No cannabis puns, nothing like that.
But yeah, they regulated it. You can even have the name outside the building that is related to it.
Proposed to make the building as boring as possible, so like, it doesn't appease like the attention of children or any of that.
Yeah, thank you.
So it's gonna be almost by appointment only.
Or it'll be, an if you know, sort of.
Yeah.
So has your question of the fence been answered or what? Who asked the question?
I did.
Probably not as high, I'm thinking of.
Eight feet would be sufficient unless you guys decided.
Keep it
we
I would
below,
say
wanted to-
6
keep
feet
it
should be
below our
more than that.
regulation. and he
No,
has-
no, 7 feet is is not, I made a suggestion,
So,
Commissioner.
Yeah, to your point, Mr. Lenke, right, it is written into the zoning regulations that we can suggest, or, put a condition of screening. So that it could be a condition. I mean, we could set the height of the fence as we desired, as a condition.
Special permit.
Anything else before I let them sit down and open this up? to
So
the-
just that if you choose to continue the public hearing, what I would appreciate when preparing for the next meeting is any comments that any members have to say, so I could write that up in my report and get those answers and write it up in my report.
We could also close it and act on it next month as well.
Right, I would suggest, yeah, to
I mean, that's-
answer to your satisfaction, absolutely.
I know we are waiting on that, the wetlands, at the very
Right.
least, the wetlands approval. Okay, so if you gentlemen want to sit down.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Valerie has had her hand up since we first opened the public hearing, and Jeff Bolte had his hand up earlier and is down now, but I would say Valerie should
Yeah.
have the first.
So Ms. Clark,
Hi, this is really a point of order. I put it in the chat. And the link in your agenda is not clickable, and I'm concerned that there are people who have not been able to join the meeting.
thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Oh, great to me.
Any other comments from the members of the public who wish to be heard? Sir, if you could just come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
Scott Crowdy, Thompson, Connecticut. Retired law enforcement. They make it sound rosy, and I give them credit for trying a business. This is going to bring negativity into our town, okay? You don't have a police department. You don't have a constable. Something's going to play out either in their field on Pompeo Road or down here. Mark my words, okay? This is not what the town of Thompson needs.
Thank you, Mr. Proudy. Sir. Cindy, are you ready with the timeline?
Sean Kuchar, 102 Thompson Road. It's actually across the street from the new daycare that's going up.
How do you spell your last name?
Couture.
T-U-R-O.
Yes. So one of the things that they pointed out was that it's a 10% tax that the town will get. That's not what the law states. It's a 3% tax is what the town will make off of this business. It's based on the sales tax. Out of that 10% that they're talking about, the state still pulls their 6.35%. Plus the additional 10% that they're pulling for the sin tax, I guess is however you want to describe it. That's what they're pulling on an additional. The town gets 3% out of the 20% total. If you do the math on that, for $1 million, that's $30,000 the town is going to make. Okay. If we employ one town employee full-time for 40 hours a week, they would make $29,000. That's going to eat up almost all of that. When you put in the fees for Social Security and town insurance and workman's comp and everything, that's going to go well above what this establishment would bring in for revenue for the town. Secondly, Boston University's done a study over the last 18 years, actually previous in the last 18 years, from 2000 to 2018. They found a 50% increase in fatal accidents regarding one of the drivers having used cannabis or having cannabis in their system. So that's over an 18-year period. It went up 50%. So that's about 3% every year. This business is going to be located at one of the busiest intersections in town. And I judge that based upon we have 3 stoplights in town. That's one of them. I don't think it's going to reduce the number of accidents in town, having people come in to visit the business. The other thing that I would be concerned about, we did talk about putting up a fence. That's going to reduce the number of parking spots that they have. And even though they can't have anybody smoking that's within the facility or on the property, there's a graveyard right across the street. They're going to go across the street and enjoy what they just bought. That's the reality of the way this is going to work out. In the last few years, as the town, what we've added Anya Restaurant, which is a beautiful upper scale restaurant. We've added the new farm-based daycare. We've taken the old scary house at the center of town and reworked it. It looks beautiful now. It really does. We've added so much, even the applicants have made the T-Rex golf course, which is awesome. It's a great family-run business. And that's really what the town needs to say, is promoting family. That's what we want to bring in, is family values of the town. And that's what brings people to live here. I don't know that this business is going to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kuchar.
Can I answer one thing? Thank you for bringing those points. There was more fatal accident rates due to alcohol than it is to, that's proven fact. And alcohol stays in the system.
It stays in your system for 1 to 2 days. So yeah, if they were tested on the accident after whenever they went, that could have been the day before, the day prior. You can still use cannabis at your own home and still be in the comfort of your own home, using that the recommended regulation. They're supposed to use that. Anything is better for overuse, like alcohol. There's more DUIs than there is anything cannabis related. We don't talk about those, you know. He's saying that Thompson needs to stay family oriented, and I agree. This isn't something that's gonna change the way how Thompson is as a family. We have 4 or 5 liquor stores in Thompson. Again, this is a stigma, 3, but this is a stigma 2, the business itself.
People don't go buy alcohol and go across the street and drink it. And there was more fatal accidents from alcohol than cannabis.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. White is in the Zoom audience.
Can I just answer this other question of the concern about the fence and the parking spaces? Those parking spaces were counted up to T-Rex. They did not count any T-Rex parking spaces.
Ms. White?
And we also own the land to the right of the building here, where we could put additional parking if needed. We own all the way up to the guardrail in the corner.
Thank you.
She was there.
Ms. White, you're recognized.
Just leave her though. That's what I'm saying.
So she has some mute.
Sally, you're on mute. I don't know if you know that or not. Trying to figure it out. Okay, we can come back to it.
Oh, she's off.
Oh, she's
on
off.
now. She's on now.
Oh.
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Ms. White.
You can hear me now? Okay. I'd like to speak to, one of my first thoughts was related to the cemetery, and I appreciate the gentleman that brought that up. Many of us have family there, and some of us use that to walk in and feel safe there and quiet. Human nature being what it is, it's quite likely that people will look for the closest place where they can get away and immediately indulge in their purchase. And I can see the potential of the cemetery becoming a place where people no longer want to have peace and quiet and visit their family grave sites. And I can see trash being placed there. That's a real concern. There are other places around. Of course, they can go to the dam and places there. People are always going to find a place. I realize that. But I'd like to speak to the larger issue of, again, the other person that had spoken to, what direction are we taking the town in? We're adding housing that will accommodate families on various locations on Route 12. And the fact is, there is much evidence out there in terms of studies, experiential statistics, in terms of the increased accidents that happen. And the fellows referred to, there are a lot of accidents with drunken driving. And those exist now, but then we would be adding to that. So it's not like one is going to replace the other. So the number of incidents for emergency response will happen. And I think it will involve, of course, more innocent people, as can happen with drinking, but there will be an increase no matter how you cut it. But I am concerned about the direction we're taking the town and the emphasis on how much money the town is going to make. But I don't know that that is going to offset the anguish, the emergency response costs, the concerns with families and youngsters, because it does tell youngsters, whether they're in their teens or their 20s, that it's okay to do this. And we may just be talking about the structure and the location and the zoning part of it, but there's a lot of other factors that go into this. And I would like to see a very robust discussion about all of the features, all of the benefits, whether they be adverse or they be potentially positive. And I would hate to see this go through without a major debate and having that fully disclosed. And I think listening to the gentleman that was involved in law enforcement is very important. He's seen it, he's lived it. And I hope folks will pay attention to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. White.
I have an answer to that, if you don't mind. I have my good friend here, Tim B. Would you mind? So he takes care of the cemetery across the street. That's what I want to bring up. And he told me a story last week. There was somebody in there, went to visit one of the sites and he was sitting there drinking. Mr. Bates went there and he told him, no, you cannot do that. They have people that take care of that. So that would be an issue that would be addressed right away. So shut down all the liquor store in town.
Thank you, Mr. Youssef. Thank you, Mr. President.
Oh, okay. No, go right ahead.
Sean Brissett, Lowell Davis Road. You know, I did some studies, some research myself yesterday because I knew I was going to come here tonight. And I can find a large number of studies saying that the crime doesn't increase in certain neighborhoods. I can find studies that show that it's decreasing in the neighborhoods where the legal shops are. It has to do with taking over a vacant building and putting more eyes on the street. That's not this case, but you can find a study to back up whatever belief you want to back up. We all know that. This is a legal business. I'm probably one of the nerds in the room. I've never tried it. I have no intention to, but it's a legal business that, as they said, is coming here. Okay, it's going to be in Connecticut. It's in Massachusetts. To think that most of your neighbors aren't already going over the line into Massachusetts to get their supply is very naive. Because when I say I'm one of the nerds in the room, I'm one of the only people I know that hasn't tried it and isn't actively doing it now. So this is here. This is a family who's been in our community for almost 2 decades. If it meets the regulations, then they should be allowed to do it. It should be that simple. When my daughter was graduating from high school, I was involved in project graduation. So we've got the can drive. Saturday morning, once a month, I'm down at the liquor store grabbing my bags because that's where we were doing our returns through. And every Saturday that I was there, the parking lot was full waiting for him to open. And those people were in their car drinking before they drove out of the parking lot. Okay, so let's not kid ourselves that the big bad people who want to use cannabis are going to be so bad. I mean, I have a lot of very good friends that have a lot of professional jobs that are doing this on a regular basis, whether it's for sleep, whether it's for pain. This is not backroom deal we have to get high type of business anymore. Okay, and I think that stigma needs to go away. And yes, we have a law enforcement officer who saw it. But was he seeing the legal system that we have in place now? Or was it still, and by the way, we have a very bad drug problem in town. We know this. Anybody paying attention knows it's already here. Okay, so maybe making it legal helps everybody understand that this isn't some demon. And I'd be curious about that study that shows, we all know when we were kids, if we were getting away with something, right? We wanted to do it right up until we got permission to do it. And then it wasn't fun anymore. So.
How's it gonna help? Thank you, Mr. Brissett.
In what way? It's another business in town.
Dave Clark, 105 Elm Road, Thompson. I greatly appreciate the comments from the police officer, because I think this does need to be addressed. Not that crime is going to go up, but marijuana is a cash business. They don't accept credit cards. They can accept debit cards, but it's a cash business. Large amounts of cash bring in bad people. The possibility of a robbery or the possibility of a break-in at the growing plant are very serious concerns, and I think the town needs to consider this. That's not to say don't do this. As was also mentioned, marijuana is sold in town now. Heroin is sold in town now. Ecstasy is sold in town now. A lot of these are being sold to the kids in the high schools and younger. I taught in Worcester. My students in middle school were doing some of these drugs. It scared the crap out of me. Interesting thing is that in the legal pot stores, the largest population that's purchasing it is adults over the age of 50. Most of them over the age of 60. For pain, sleep, anxiety, or they're still protesting the Vietnam War. Now, you can lose the business to Putnam and Woodstock, or you can have the business here. But I do strongly suggest you understand the policing that's got to be necessary. I'm in favor of this. I'd like to shut down the heroin merchants that are on the bridge down at the state park, state forest.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Address the cash flow. To answer your question, thank you so much for that. For the cash, the large amounts of cash coming in, obviously, there's going to be a cash business per the state guidelines. Not only don't we have 24-hour security and all that, and security at the door, we're also going to have frequent cash drops and those kind of things. So they'll be on a regular schedule coming through. So there won't be held a large amount of cash for that to even be on there, for them to even come in and bring that. Dispensaries operate now, and I don't think there's any break-ins or any of that as of now in Massachusetts. I've seen that people bring this to the store, any of that. So frequent cash drops will keep, there will be no cash supply, huge cash supply inside the building.
Anything from Catherine? Sir?
Hi, I'm Fran Knappett. I live at 90 Thompson Road, just up the street. So I've
You
been
want to spell your last name, please?
KNAPIK, like Mac the Knife. So I've listened to everybody and I made some notes, so excuse me if I read a little bit here, but cannabis really is, it's all around us. It's just everywhere. You can't go anywhere. It's around us. It's not in the, hidden anymore. Grandma used to scare us. The cannabis would lead to hard drugs. We now know that's not the case. The health benefits are enormous. Everyone here who's saying negative things is acting on the assumption that this is just kids running in the woods smoking weed. It's not. It is 50, 60, 70-year-old people who need the drugs as a medicine. This is not an illegal drug. It's a medicine for many, many people. To address what the officer said, there are no more helicopter flyovers. They've effectively just stopped. If they find you with weed, they slap you on the hand and maybe take it. And but I don't believe I believe that they should be freed up to go after the bad drug crimes, heroin and that sort of a thing. To get on to what Hun was saying, he is a proven family businessman. You can see what he's done with the pizza business and certainly with the mini golf. I would rather see a family business go in and do this than some large corporation. If you had concerns, you should add stipulations to him. If you want a bigger cut of the pie, tell him you need a bigger cut of the pie. I don't know. I don't really know what the profits would be. In the history of cannabis, there has never been a lethal overdose. Never. Revenue to the town, I think, is in direct proportion to the support that the town gives to Hun. He is a proven businessman. I would be in support of letting them go ahead and do the business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nafik. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I have some questions that would enable me to make a better decision. After listening to what everybody has said, how many dispensaries are in the state of Connecticut right now? None, correct? So
There's two medical ones in Hartford.
two medical ones, okay, two medical ones.
Zero recreational.
They're right now, so this is the beginning of what is to come.
Yes.
This is the beginning of what is to come. So we don't have a template here in Connecticut. I want to look into the ones that are in Massachusetts. We've got one in Oxford. We have one in Webster. There's some in Worcester. My thinking is that we need to, one, go talk to the police. What kind of increase in problems have they had? What are they seeing happening with this? Because through research that I've done, it's not going to be much. There's more of a problem with the hard drugs. It's not with the cannabis, but it does need to be checked out. I don't know what the statutes and the regulations are in Massachusetts as to how much the town gets, money wise. We need to nail that down. If I heard 10-10, then it was taken down to 3, and the state is going to take more. That needs to be checked out. But I mean, enabling us to find out more information, literally talking to a community that has it. And what have they seen as the pros and cons that have come along with this, so that we have something to base our decision on, not just hearsay, which I'm not saying hearsay is bad or what anybody's opinions are, but I want statistics. So I think possibly, I know it was said earlier, in order to move this to next month, we would have to have him agree to it because it misses the date by 2 days.
Yeah, 1 or 2 days.
1 or 2 days, so that we are able to go really delve into this to get some numbers that I know for me would give me some peace of mind if I actually talk to a place and a community that has this, so that I can look at it myself. I mean, if have be, I'll go talk to the police in Oxford. I'll go talk to the police in Webster, just to get their input so that I can bring the report back to the commission. So, and anything else that anybody can think of that we need to check out so that we have an intelligent bit of information before we make a decision on it. I mean, I know that there is a bigger problem with bad drugs in this town. It ain't pot.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, just to reply to Jane pointing out that there isn't a template yet, I will point out, since we were one of the early towns to adopt any recreational adult cannabis use regulations, our town council and others have recommended that other towns reach out to us, that they've been very, very well received, and other towns are actually using our regulations as a model already.
Okay. Okay. But I mean, one town that actually has the dispensaries in, that's what I meant by a template that has the dispensary.
Mr. Williams.
Can I just ask a question to Jane's comments? Who would be expected to do this research that you're suggesting?
Like I said, I will go talk to the Oxford Police Department. I will go talk to the Webster Police Department. I'll explain what's happening and what input they can give so that we have some more information on this from communities that are actually dealing with this.
Webster and
Dispensary too.
Yes, yes.
Webster and what other department?
Oxford,
Oxford.
yep.
I can help with that part.
Oxford.
I'm gonna go with Mr. Williams and then Mr. Brissett.
I actually stopped at the Webster Police Department and I asked them two questions. One of them was the crime, and they said it has not gone up whatsoever. And then I asked them about the use of it, and they said, if you drive by them by them dispensaries, and you look in there, there's Mercedes in there, there's
Yeah.
Lexuses in
Yeah.
there, and that they, it's not the average kids that are gonna run out and buy something out the back door. It's lawyers, it's doctors, it's teachers.
Yeah, it's not
That's
kids.
buying
It-
it.
it's not
That's what
kids,
I
it's
was told
more-
at the
yeah.
Webster Police
The
Department.
taxes as well. like the
But
tax
I would
rate
like
and
to
the
get-
price.
But
Yeah.
I only asked them two
Yeah,
questions,
yeah, I think-
and that was it.
But
Thank you,
I'd
Mr.
like to get an in-depth and a piece of
Mhm.
paper from them stating,
And I'd like to see the list of questions.
well, then we can come up with them. Okay? I mean, if you want to give me, I will do the footwork, okay? I'm offering, take me up on it, because I don't do it very often.
Thank you, Ms. Halsey. Mr. Brissett.
This is also, my wife and I passed two in Sturbridge on the way to the Brimfield Flea Market last week, so there's two brand new ones.
Oh, okay.
So probably
Okay,
another somewhat similar animal,
okay,
what their makeup is.
okay.
On the way there, so.
Are there any other comments from the public who wish to be heard?
I have a comment.
Mr. Proudy?
Just that there and we are a specific location. We're separate from Webster, Dudley, and Sturbridge, and Worcester, and all these. We have no PD. 2 seconds in Rhode Island, 2 seconds into Massachusetts. As we sit here today, you mark my words, it's coming. Okay, it's coming. You cannot have this type of business without bringing in crime.
Thank you, Mr. Proudy.
No, was
When you have
Just one, order, just,
When you have a 2-second response from a local police department and you have cruisers in the area, we have nothing. The guy who's responsible for this patrol is Killenly, Attawagin, Belleville. I know it's Belleville, Attawagin, Putnam, except for the 3 square miles in this entire town, including 395.
thank you, Mr. Proudy.
How would you?
Mr. Youssef?
I'm sorry, how would you explain Mr. Ray just saying he was stopped by the police department and he said the rates has not going up? That's.
Yeah.
That's what they told me at Webster Police Department.
Thank you.
As soon as we got this last month, trust me, I do my homework on all of this stuff. I stopped and talked to you about this.
I know you do.
You know, and I stopped and talked to everybody that we have these things. So I went to the police department and asked them.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we need to look into this more to get some answers before, at least in my mind, that I can make an educated decision as to how to vote. I need some of my questions answered before I can say how I, would vote.
Thank you. Mr. Youssef, if we were to continue the public hearing, would you be able to provide Ms. Dunn with a written approval of that action? Okay, thank you.
Right, then I'll make a motion that we push this to June so that we can do more research.
Do you want to continue it?
Do you want to continue it?
Continue the public.
Do you want to
Yeah,
continue
the public hearing. Thank you, John. Yeah. Continue the public hearing.
27th? Yes.
June 27th.
Yep. June
Just one
27th.
question, we have to do this again?
To explain public hearing, yes, you can bring up what has been discussed at the next public hearing.
Can we
If
just
you-
replay
Well,
the video?
Yeah,
well-
and you can bring up new stuff.
Well, to be clear, if we continue the public hearing, the public hearing stays open.
Right, right.
And
Yes,
people can continue to be heard.
Right.
If we close the public hearing and request, request an extension to make a decision at the next meeting, we as the commission could discuss what came up in the public hearing.
Right.
So that's
But not
that's the,
accept any new.
but not accept any new information.
so we're going to continue. That's my,
The motion on the table is to continue the
Yeah.
public hearing to our next regular meeting on June 27th. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Lanky. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, a yes vote will continue, a no vote will take another course of action. Mr. Blackburn.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Mike Vogel, yes.
Guys, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
John B. Lanky, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Joseph Perotti Brown, yes. And so, Mr. Youssef, if you could just.
Sign this one.
Excellent. Okay, Ida,
I have one other thing. Seems I am, and I volunteered to do this. Anybody that has any questions that they want me to bring forward to the police stations, you all have my number. I don't always answer the phone, but leave me a message and I will get back.
Oh, I know that.
I know.
thank you, Ms. Halsey. Thank
Okay.
you for,
All right.
for application 22-15, applicant Strategic Commercial Realty Incorporated, DBA Ross Materials, 58 Pomfret Street, Putnam, Connecticut, 06260. Property owner Christine M. Waldron et al., 20 Wiltshire Drive, Worcester, Massachusetts, 01609, requesting a special permit for gravel mining operation. The applicant has requested a postponement to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of June 27th.
Make a motion to postpone.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Rice, seconded by Mr. Blackmer
22-15.
to postpone the public hearing for application 22-15 to the next public meeting or the next regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission on June 27th, 2022. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, a yes will postpone, a no will take some other action. Mr. Hill.
Alvin Hill, yes.
John B. Lanky, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Guys, yes.
Mike Vogel, yes.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Joseph Perotti Brown, yes. Item 4, the public hearing for application 22-14 remains open, and the public hearing for application 22-15 has been postponed. There is no discussion to take, no action to take at this time, nor discussion to have. Citizens' comments. Mr. Clark.
State Clark, 105 Elm Road, Thompson. On Wednesday, April 27th, in a town vote, the current Planning and Zoning Commission remains in place due to a tie vote. This should not be seen as a victory. Winning by a tie is like winning by default. There was a huge turnout with a lot of people putting good arguments on both sides. Had I not publicly changed my vote at the last minute, this board would have been dissolved. The people are not happy. I am not happy. At the last Planning and Zoning meeting, before the contentious town meeting, what I witnessed was appalling. An applicant, a Mr. Deary, for reasons that did not come out that evening, was late on a provision of his application. We never found out why. When the discussion among the members began, it was shut down as Mr. Rice shouted it down, threw a hissy fit and said no. The only reason stated for not listening or for not trying to understand Mr. Deary's situation was that Mr. Rice was upset about the upcoming town vote to disband the P&Z Commission. All but 2 of the 3 members voted along with Mr. Rice. I was shocked by this behavior. Later that evening, during people's comments, Mr. Deary pleaded that he was only trying to continue using his property in a manner that had been used for years. But at this point, all discussion had passed. Town officials, elected, appointed, or otherwise, should be here to help the people, not take it out on them because they have a grievance against someone else. I sincerely hope that Mr. Deary has gotten an attorney and will be bringing suit against the town and the Planning and Zoning Commission for this grievous behavior. I encourage everyone who has an issue with this commission or any other town commission to do the same. Maybe then you will hear us. I will work very hard in all future elections to unseat the members of this board, especially those who have been on for many years and feel that they are above the rules or that they have ultimate power. The ones who have forgotten who they are here to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Valerie's got her hand up.
Ms. Clark?
Sorry, it takes a minute.
We've got
So
you.
that Valerie Clark, 105 Alm Road. When the special town meeting happened, something that was brought up during the town meeting was a question regarding why there was a question or suggestion asking why proper procedures hadn't been followed to change the regulations that people were objecting to. And I listened to that question suggestion, and the first thing I thought was, why didn't this come up at any of the planning and zoning meetings prior to the action that was taken to create the special town meeting? So I looked into the planning and zoning regulations, and I'm here to find out what the process actually is to request a change to existing regulations, and whether I'm right that in order to question and request a change to the regulations, one has to pay a $175 fee to the commission. And is that a per regulation fee? And so if I were to apply to request a change, which wouldn't guarantee me that anything would change, but let's say, for example, some of the more contentious regulations that have come up over the past several months, the chicken coop chicken ordinance, the slaughter regulation, or the events regulation, if I wanted to request that the commission consider changing those, would I have to pay $525 or $175 per regulation? Do you offer a bulk discount? I'm just here to ask if I understand the process correctly and to request that the commission go through what that proper process is so that people can understand. I appreciate your help with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. And I think I know the answer to that, but I don't want to speak out of turn. So perhaps when I get to commissioners' comments, I might be able to answer some of those questions for you. But I just want to be able to make sure I'm speaking accurately. But thank you, Ms. Clark.
Donna Austin, 1075 Johnson Road. I was just a little bit dismayed to find out that the open space was accepted, and it wasn't accepted here, it was accepted at a different meeting. Because I just wanted to ask or make some comments. Did anybody ever read somebody's open space? Like I brought mine tonight. And I wanted to know if anybody ever read it, because I was going to show you when you go into open space exactly what you get. So that was the first one. And then the second one, because from Amy, Selectman, she gave me what you guys were recommending, what they were recommending, and what was first originally accepted by the board when we went into open space. And I just wanted you guys who are all voting on this and changing it, is if you looked at all of them. And if you didn't, maybe you should have. And I really would have liked to been included in the meeting when you guys were all voting because I've been coming all the time, but it didn't happen here. It happened somewhere else at a different time, not every 4 weeks. You know, and I was just wondering, did you guys read every single one, like the original one, who did it? Did you read the old ones? So when you all made your decisions, you all had all the facts. That's all that I'm asking is, you know, if you're voting on something this major for us who are in the open space, if you really looked at all the facts of all the papers. Because I went and I asked him, may I have all the papers so I myself can look and see what it was compared to what I got when we put our land in open space. And I just want to say, you know, after the big vote and everything, that maybe you guys would consider us a little more. And especially if you're changing these meetings to a different date and you're voting, how, like, I didn't know, and I'm pretty well plugged in on what's going on right now. And I didn't even know, because I came tonight with all my paperwork. They said, oh, nope, that's done. It's like, oh, okay. So just maybe a little consideration for us. And maybe the big rigmarole won't happen if you have consideration for us on these things. You know, because that's really important to me. And if any of you guys had it, it may be really important to you. I don't know who does and who doesn't. You know, that's all that I want to say. You know, these things are important to some of us in this town. Been here a long time, over 38 years. You know, it's important. That's all that I wanted to say.
Thank you, Ms. Austin.
Richard Burks, 181 Hillwood Road. I have been trying for 3.5 months to get your zoning board enforcement officer to give me copies of the complaints that come in on chicken. She has put me off. She smiled at me, told me 2 weeks, and she refuses to do it. So tomorrow I'll file a Freedom of Information Act, and we can do it that way, and maybe spend a day in Hartford together. That would be nice. As for the slaughtering rules, I can't figure out how you come up with it. They contradict the state rules, the rules that I know. The only thing I can come up with is it comes down to one member and one neighbor. And it was taken care of for him. And that's all I have to say about that. But I will not go away on this issue until she gives me what I've asked for. I've been in the town hall several times. On one occasion, the town clerk attacked me, asking for information that I'm entitled to. She literally come after me. I asked for a copy of the ballot, the old ballot, just so I could get everybody's name straight. And she came after me. It's like she shouldn't be questioned. That's all I have to say. I'm going nowhere. And I'm glad to see that you removed Kara from this table because she doesn't belong at it. And she doesn't need to hold your hand to run a meeting. You can do it yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Anyone else? No one on the-
Nobody else has a hand up.
Seeing no more comments at this time, move on. Item 6, approve minutes. April 25th, 2022, regular meeting minutes. Here in our packet. What's that? The regular meeting minutes from April 25th, 2022.
Okay, I have a question.
Mr. Kroger.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, but it's
Just
for
for
the
the people in the
recording.
Zoom room would like to hear you too, Mike.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay, well, now I got to get another. Page 4. Okay, anyway, okay. I'm sorry if I'm losing this coming up later here, but it had to do with Mr. O'Brien at 108 Fabian Road. I got my this page 15. but-
On the top of page 3. and
Page 5, page 5.
Page 5.
Yep, top of page 5.
I'm sorry, yeah.
And he was discussing under the change of the hunting deer on his land, the dressing deer on his land. I want to make sure that we're talking about field dressing the deer and make sure there's no misunderstanding about dressing operations on the lands. But you have to field dress a deer. I mean, I'm no hunter, but I know you have to cut it out on the site. So it's saying here that he can dress. That's a dressing deer. But I want to make sure it's not an operation like a slaughterhouse or something. Yeah. Just want to make sure we're talking on the same page.
Yeah, no, certainly I understand. I think
So you suggesting adding field dressing?
I just don't want people coming back after and using words.
Yeah, I know,
of
but that's what I'm
misunderstanding. I
asking.
think field dressing should be the, yes.
Yeah. From hunting deer on his land to field dressing on his land.
And if I'm thinking wrongly here, please let me know, but.
well,
I'm kind of confused.
Ms.
Well,
Alsey?
because this is where I had wanted the minutes to amend because of what it was in the minutes originally, that because it wasn't about dressing the deer. I mean, now I'm, yeah. now I'm
Right,
confused.
it had originally read hunting.
Hunting, yes, yes. So what is it that you're saying? You want it to say dressing?
Field dressing.
Field dressing, out in the field
Out
where
in
they shoot the deer. They have to, which I understand that you have to do that, right?
Yes.
When you shoot the deer, you've got to kind of dress it before you get it out of there, correct? Okay, so you want to put the word dressing, field dressing in there?
Yes.
Okay, okay, gotcha, thank you.
You know, and then when he gets back to his shed, barn, whatever, where he's gonna hang it.
Field
Dress.
dress.
The rest.
Okay, field
Field
dress, okay, field
Field dress
dress.
deer on his land.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay, and there was one other thing I had. There was a typo on page 9. Second paragraph, or whatever, up from the top. Letter B, 4 Watson Road. It says 4 Watson Road, no one here to speak on 40 Watson.
Oh, okay.
So I'm assuming 40 should be 4.
Yes, 4 Watson.
It is one.
Yeah, down at the bottom.
Thank you, Mr. Provo.
Yeah, I know.
Any, any other comments?
I make a motion, we accept that.
No.
With, no?
No.
Okay.
No,
What do you got?
what do you got?
What do you got?
I got
I looked through
on
these, I
page
didn't catch either
4, down on that March 17 meeting, it says Jane Sauls removed.
Another little typo, probably a
Typo.
an autocorrect.
Such a page
Huh?
4?
Autocorrect.
Autocorrect.
Oh,
Correct.
yeah. yeah.
Okay,
And my second thing is that all the
I'm
special
sorry, just one
meetings.
second. That's on page 4.
Oh, sorry.
It's section F, Gloria. It's the
James
March
Austin moved.
17th,
Yeah.
2022
Picked up on
I'm a mover.
special meeting.
You got that right.
Yeah.
The mover should be moved. It's just a typographical. error.
Yes.
But important nonetheless. Mr. Lenke, please continue.
Yes, and with all the special meetings, so-called special meetings, it should be called subcommittee
Mhm.
instead of special meetings. A special meeting is a meeting like we had last Monday, where you have to have, again, an agenda. So special meeting should be going forward. Instead of special meeting, should be saying subcommittee, because that's what a subcommittee is. Is that you've got a majority or a group of regular commissioner members, and we have these meetings so we can discuss and go over things between us. So when we can send it back to the regular meeting, and then it gets discussed in public. So going forward, I would like to see subcommittee instead of special meeting, because the special meeting means is we have to call something like we did last week
Right.
for that agenda.
And on the agendas as well, they should.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on the agenda, it should be that way.
Thank you,
So
Mr.
you can look up subcommittee in the definition, and
Mhm.
look through all 4 different dictionaries.
Yeah.
Mr. Lincoln, thank you. And I'll just add one more typo on page 5 in section J. This is the April 6th, 2022 minutes. There's a superfluous A at the end of the word web. You just delete the A. Yeah. So
Web A.
April 6th, 2022, no, it's in the title. Oh. Web A. Yeah.
Don't get it straight now. Somebody picks up on it.
Any other comments, corrections, suggestions? Mr. Williams,
Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept that as amended.
motion has been made by Mr. Williams to accept the minutes of the April 25th meeting with the previously mentioned amendments.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Ms. Salsi. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, a yes vote will approve, a no will reject. Mr. Blackmer.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Mike Vogel, yes.
Kais, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salsi, yes.
John B. Lindsay has to abstain. I had I was absent. Thank you.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes. The minutes are approved. Item 6B, May 4th, 2022, special meeting minutes. Those are on the web. That was from our most recent subcommittee meeting on the subdivision regulations. Subcommittee subs.
Yes.
That's why we get
Yes.
so confused.
That's-
We had to go through it. It was- we can't-
No.
We had to approve it.
Oh, this is the,
This
I'm
is
sorry.
this-
This is the PA 490
Yes,
meeting. My
yes,
apologies.
So that
yes.
was-
My apologies.
This
is a special meeting.
special
Yeah.
meeting.
You are right.
Yeah, this is because it was the PA 490.
Correct. It has to be noticed. Yeah. mhm.
Publicly and everything, all that stuff.
Can't mess with the agenda once it's been. I will move the acceptance of the May 4th, 2022 special meeting.
I will second.
Motion made by Mr. Brody Brown, seconded by Mr. Lenke to approve the minutes of May 4th, 2022. Any discussion? Yes, will approve. No, will deny. Mr. Hill.
Alvin Hill, yes.
John B. Lindsay, yes.
Jane Salsi, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
John Rice abstained.
Kais or
Not
Levesque.
in attendance.
Kais or Levesque, yes.
Mike Vogel abstain.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes. The minutes are approved.
Mr. Chairman,
Miss-
did you say those were the May 4th minutes?
Yeah.
That was a subcommittee.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It was like May,
That
Well,
was
it
the
was
May
16th.
16th, yes.
Oh,
The 16th
I
was the
I was
special
thinking,
meeting.
I should have
so
questioned.
why don't we have the
See,
16
then
minutes
should have
on
been
here?
subcommittee. You were right, what I just corrected. Thank you. I apologize, Mr. Chair.
And I apologize for agreeing with you.
So, okay, how do we strike a vote? Do we?
What's that?
Oh, make a motion to correct the vote.
Make a motion to correct the vote.
date. Correct the date. I make a motion, we do a revote.
Do we have, we don't have. the
They're
minutes.
online.
Yep, or the special meeting.
No, yeah, so those, I think,
Those will be next.
Next
yeah, we'll
one.
have to approve those next month.
Yep.
But the minutes for the subdivision subcommittee meeting are online. And this is the meeting on the appendices.
Appendices,
Yeah. mhm.
Okay,
So see, this should have been a subcommittee meeting.
correct,
Okay, not special meeting.
correct.
Okay.
So with that in mind, I will move the approval of the May 4th, 2022 minutes of the subcommittee meeting on subdivision rewrite.
Do we have to change the original motion, deny it and then redo that one? Because we did approve, even though it's
I'll bring my book with me.
just ask Gloria what we should have, what we just voted on.
Is it a scrivener's error?
Excuse me?
Scrivener's error, which means it was just reported incorrectly.
So, no, so the issue is there was confusion about which meeting we were voting on. I didn't bring my book either.
So if we make a motion
We have to actually.
to, what's the word I
To
want?
strike.
To strike the last
To strike the
vote
previous.
because the wording was not proper. It should have been titled subcommittee, not special meeting. So,
Okay, so I will move, we strike the previous vote.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Lenke. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will take a voice vote. All those in favor of striking the previous vote, say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? So the previous vote being stricken. I will now move that we approve the minutes of the subdivision regulation subcommittee meeting on May 4th, 2022, which was held via Zoom and are available online.
I will second that.
Seconded by Ms. Salsi. Any discussion? Hearing none, I guess we'll approve the subdivision regulation subcommittee meeting minutes regarding appendices. And now we'll take another action. Mr. Hill.
Albert Hill, yes.
John B. Lincoln, yes.
Jane Saucy, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Sean Rice abstain, not in attendance.
Kaiser Levak, yes.
Mike Vogel abstained, not in attendance.
I'll abstain because I didn't go on the web to read the minutes. I don't know that they're right.
Joseph Party Brown, yes. The minutes are approved. Item 7, applications. Planning and Zoning Commission, application 22-17, applicant French River Materials, owner Strategic Commercial Realty Incorporated, doing business as Ross Materials, 307 Riordan Road, map 156, block 8, lot 7, zone BBD. Renewal of gravel mining operation to excavate sand and gravel. Zoning regulations 2012, Article 9, Section 5, gravel banks earth removal. Reminder that the original permit was granted under previous version of our regulations.
Better than that.
What's that?
That's what you did.
I labeled it.
Yeah, I
Entrance-
know.
Oh, it's just the
Yeah.
entrance to the site. What's wrong with that? Which I am allowed to
Oh, yeah,
do.
get it.
Sorry about that, guys.
Better get a new camera.
Mr. Hopkins.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here tonight for French River Materials, looking to renew. The plan that you have in front of you is up to date. It was flown by a drone this time, so it looks slightly different than what you've seen in the past. It's actually a better representation of what's there at this time. So over the recent months, Marla was able to come and did a very thorough inspection. She had a young gentleman with her as well. I don't remember his name, but the three of us.
That's Dan on new conservation.
And we did a good walk around of the site, and she was pleased with what she saw. I know Cindy has been there recently as well. So we're just looking to renew, to continue. What you see before you is phases 1 and phase 2. We're getting ready to turn the corner and start heading up the road to complete phase 2. All things continue as they have been for a number of years now.
Not to the site, and as it has been in the past, it's very, very neat. saw the area they're working on. Sorry, pictures. That's his test blast report and his cubic yard report and the fee paid.
So everything is.
It is.
Okay with it, so I'll make a motion that
Before the motion, Mr. Liking, Mr. Rice, and any other commissioners with questions?
Question, Cindy, there's no fee paid on this
I know,
application.
but probably because the check came in afterwards, but the fee has been paid. If you want me to go get some sequels? I can
No,
bring it to you.
no, I just.
Yeah. I put that on the application.
It was 20.
Sorry about that, Mr. Commissioner.
$2,300, I believe.
What page are we on?
Yeah,
Finishing one, moving to two, is that what you said, Mr.
No.
Hopkins?
You're going 2 and 3.
No, we're still finishing
You
phase
still
2.
finishing page 2.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you're close.
So this isn't the other 11 acres that they want to move into. that you guys want to-
No, this is something that's been going on.
Okay.
So.
this is just a continuation.
Yeah, okay, just one. I know something at the last meeting about that.
Well, that was delayed to next month.
Right, yes.
Application.
Yep.
With the other one.
You got it? Yes. You got it?
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
I know you have 22 cars that you fill. Are we doing more rail now versus trucking?
It's probably been the same over the last couple of years. I think I represented last year that due to COVID, the construction in New York City dived in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And that's where the bulk of the materials go by rail. So that's coming back now. I expect it to increase over, say, the last couple of years,
Yeah.
but it did definitely take a dip.
Questions for Mr. Hopkins?
Make a motion to approve permit 2217.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Rice, seconded by Mr. Krogel to approve the renewal application 22-17. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, a yes will approve the renewal, a no will reject. Mr. Blackmer.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Mike Vogel, yes.
Kaiser Levac, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
John B. Linky, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes.
Thank you very much, all.
Application 22-18, applicant and owner Northeast Sand and Gravel, John Mercier at 655 Riverside Drive, map 63, block 58, lot 15P, zone DMRD for renewal of gravel mining permit to excavate sand and gravel. And this states to the zoning regulations of 2012, Article 9, Section 5, gravel banks and earth removal.
Okay, as my memo said, the applicant is requesting continuation of the application review and approval to the June 27 to 2022 meeting. Actually, due to time constraints by myself, because I was on sick leave for a week, and the wetlands agent was not around at that time either, from week May 9 to May 16. I've not completed a complete review. I've asked the applicant and his representative, Attorney Steve Adams, if they had an issue with me recommending a postponement of the review and approval of the renewal. And they agreed, and they agreed to work with both departments to present their renewal request for approval. I just want to let you know that Marlon and I did get a chance last week to go out there. As opposed to pictures, we are actually going to get a video. John agreed to do a video of the operation so that we can send video to you next month. And fee is paid. They removed 71,240 cubic yards last year, and they paid their fee, the cashier's check, of $1,434.80. So Marla and I just have some, you have to get her remarks, and we just have some cleanup stuff to do to get this application to present to you. And as you can see, the last application, There just isn't enough time, everybody, and especially when you're out sick for a week because you need to be fixed. So
What are we getting per cubic yard?
2 cents, because it's under the old regulations.
Oh, it's not 9 cents.
No, they qualify under the old regulations. You know, you can
So
never
you
charge.
can't get increase on a renewal?
Nope. These renewal is under 2012 regulations. If you disagree with me, then I can contact the attorney and make sure that I'm correct.
So Ross and material.
It's the same thing as under.
That's the way it is.
That is
The one we
the
just
way it is.
approved is
Thank you.
2012.
Same thing.
Yes, Glorious.
Confirmation on how many cubic yards were removed?
71,240 cubic yards. $1,434.80.
And that's at 2 cents.
That's the 2 cents.
Pardon?
That's at 2 cents.
That's at 2 cents.
Oh.
Raw material.
Mr. Rice.
Cindy, have they reclaimed any of the previous phases?
No, they haven't, because he's submitting a building plan, a land.
What's that got to do with? So, but suppose he doesn't submit a building plan, we're gonna be
Well, then
stuck
we're
with.
not going to give him back his bond until he reclaims the land or comes in with a development.
How much is the bond, you know? Do you
What was
recall?
that again?
Do you recall how much the bond is?
Yes, I checked. I believe it's $32,000. A matter of fact, I think. I
Okay,
put it
never
in the
mind.
Folder, yeah.
On the
I
bill,
got a copy of
it's
it.
still in effect.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
just
yeah,
concerned because
definitely.
it's not, I know you're saying that, or he's been saying that they're gonna,
No, it's right here in the folder from the.
they're gonna do something in
Yeah.
there, but I'm just concerned with. It's
I think they're kind of waiting.
It's kind of rough, it's kind of rough around out there right now.
Yeah.
That's the spot that's gonna go with the 55 and over, right?
We don't know. Yeah.
That's the top.
He is planning development, and because there isn't any record of it yet, so I'm not at liberty to say what it is, except that he is planning development.
Which one are we talking?
Pardon?
Which one are we talking?
We're still, we're still talking northeast. Yeah.
No, the standing gravel,
Will
yes.
that be certified chapter?
Yes, that was.
I can see the smile on your face.
I knew that.
Okay, is there a motion to,
I'll make a motion that we postpone 22-18 till next month.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made by Mr. Williams, seconded by Mr. Rice to postpone application 22-18 to the regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission on June 27th. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I guess we'll postpone. A no will take another action. Mr. Hill.
Alvin Hill, yes.
John B. Linky, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Kaiser Levak, yes.
Mike Kruger, yes.
And Joseph Purdy Brown, yes. Okay, we're down one for a moment, so that's why your numbers are a little off. Item 8, applications received after agenda posted.
Nothing.
Item 9, reports of officers and staff, planners report.
Just to update on the progress of the subdivision regulations. As you know, we've moved into the appendices. We did run into a little wrinkle at our last subcommittee meeting, which is that the members of the subcommittee generally agreed that the format of the road construction appendix that we have is pretty much terrible. Everybody hates it. Everybody thinks it's unclear. However, we've been using that format to sort of push our discussion forward. So what I agreed to do in that last subcommittee meeting was essentially start a third plate spinning. We have that sort of messy draft that we make all our corrections into. We have the clean draft, which is the changes that we've at least, tentatively accepted for presentation in the final. And what I need to do and have not yet done is create a model of Appendix C in a different format, but using the information that we're agreeing to in those meetings. I'm going to try to have that sort of third document ready for Wednesday. If I don't think it's critical in this case. I think we can still look at the information and see if the information is the information that we want and then format it subsequently. But it is gumming that process up a wee bit, having 3 drafts open. Other than that, I think we've made great progress. And I think we are within striking distance of having that second draft done so that we can bring it back to the full commission and, discuss the final open questions. So that is that. We are scheduled for Wednesday to continue that. Gloria's already posted that agenda. That will be on Zoom. So, oh, you haven't?
I was gonna say, I haven't seen
I
that.
haven't seen it. Yeah,
thought
I
you
didn't see it.
posted that before I left for vacation. If it is not posted because of the new requirements in the town, since it's a virtual meeting, we won't be able to have it. So that may be the case. And we don't have anything scheduled after that, so I'll have to look at the calendar and
Well,
we'll have to-
24 hours, we got, I thought that'd be,
It's 48 now for virtual meetings, anything that has a virtual component. And that was based on updated guidelines from the state, and that's just within the last month or so. So yes, you are right, Ray. Normally it would have been 24 hours, but that's been changed. So I will go back and double check. I could have sworn, Gloria, that you created that agenda and posted it before I left for vacation, but if not, we have a Wednesday night off and we'll adjust thereafter.
Okay, so
Also, since Valerie raised the question and I've got my book open, Valerie, you had questions as to the petition requirements for citizens wishing to make zoning regulation amendments, correct?
If that's what, if this is the right time for you to be addressing this as a commission.
Well, it's under my report, so I can certainly look at the book of regulations and answer factual questions. So I believe your question was, is there a fee? There is a fee referenced. Petition requirements, petitions to amend the zoning regulations and/or zoning map shall, except as noted otherwise, include the following information: the signatures of all petitioners and all subject property owners, along with any required fees as set forth in the planning and zoning fee schedule. If I turn to that page, the fee schedule in the appendices, the fee for a proposed amendment to the subdivision or zoning regulations or zoning map is $250 with legal notice fees, which can be variable, although I think, oh no, I take that back. We have the legal notice fee is $75 and a public hearing sign fee, which is $50. So that would be a total of $375 is the fee. So that would be consistent with any other application that came before the commission. There are fees associated with that. And you'll have to remind me what your other questions were.
Whether that was per regulation.
I would say that that would be per petition. So if you are petitioning for 5 changes on the same petition, I would say that would be per petition.
Yes, per petition.
Because it would be one legal notice, it would be one administrative set of tasks. And I believe that you raised that in context of the ever popular chickens and field dressing topics. I would just point out, and I think you were at the last Agriculture Commission meeting, we're already working on those. So if it was your intention to submit such a petition, I would say that you'd be giving yourself a headache that you don't need to. We've already got it on the slate to consider. In fact, I had already sent back, and I thought I sent it to the entire Agriculture Commission, but may have just sent it back to the chair. Some suggested amendments based after that last meeting. I know Ray was there. Obviously, Randy was there as well, and Kai's was there. So you can confirm for me if you also received those. If not, I can certainly forward them, but I would expect we'll be discussing that in the Agriculture Commission at the end of June, with the intention of passing some recommendations back up to this commission.
So you've given me a lot to respond to. No, working backwards, no, I have not received any emails since the last Agriculture Commission. And working back from that, I was questioning it because I wanted to understand what the proper process was for the P&Z so that perhaps more people could understand what the proper process was. And I think my point being that reviewing these annually and making adjustments once a year when there are errors, I feel as though the errors should be corrected when they're brought up. And we've had 3 specifically come up at the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings in which people had questions and the commission responded, "Oh, we didn't mean you." So that's why I brought it up.
Okay. And just for the record, the regulations governing petitions and amendments, or amendments and petitions to amend, are in Article 2, Section 9 amendments, starting on page 8 on the draft that you would find online and going through page 11.
Thank you, Ms. Pym. CEO memo?
I think we've covered everything before we get to old business and new business. And then I need you to add that on to the business.
Town of Thompson budget report, April 2022.
Everybody received it. Assumption the end of this year, we should have a surplus of $5,000 back into the town budget.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Item 10, correspondence. The minutes, we do not have minutes of the Zoning Board of Appeals because that meeting was canceled. The Town of Webster Planning and Zoning public hearing notice. We did also receive the FPZA newsletter as well. So, motion to add that to.
Oh, that's not on there that we have?
No.
From.
Yep, it's the spring 2022 issue. I'm not the only one who got it. CFPZA newsletter.
Yeah.
It's in there.
Oh, yes, yes, it's in there, yes.
The question on Cindy, we're all up to date on that. We're getting that.
Membership
Oh,
dues.
membership, oh, yes.
Yeah, because I see it back in March when we paid it, and yet they were, on the back page, they were saying dues were.
Oh,
I think it just goes to everyone.
That's there
Yeah,
all the
it's just
time,
like
John.
it comes with a pamphlet and
Do we have any other of those credit things coming up?
I don't know. Do you know of any?
I haven't heard anything. No, I haven't seen anything come across, and I'm sure Tara did when she was.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything super relevant come through.
There is a, the annual conference had a presentation on actually cannabis laws and planning and zoning. So there's information if you want to find out more about that.
I tried going to that,
And it didn't work.
did not work.
I think it maybe is meant to be an email. It's like there's an email here at the bottom, so it's not actually a website. I think it's actually the email at the bottom. I think it's meant to be CFPZA.
Please contact us. Oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah, I think it's CFPZA@live.com, not .com.
That's what.
This is like, written and edited by the same person, that you never catch your own mistakes, right? So I would move to just add that as item C on correspondence. The
C.
C, because we only have A and B. A is the minutes of the canceled meeting, B is the Town of Webster Planning and Zoning, C would be the CFPZA quarterly newsletter.
What?
See what?
10C,
10C.
Connecticut, CFPZA
CFPZA
quarterly newsletter.
quarterly.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Salty seconds the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, a yes vote will amend the agenda, a no vote will not. Mr. Blackmore.
Andy Blackmore, yes.
Mike Vogel, yes.
Kaiser, or yes.
John Rice, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salcy, yes.
John B. Lanky, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Joseph Brody Brown, yes. Item 11, signing of Mylar. There is none. Item 12, old business, PA 490.
Do you have anything to say on it?
Well, you guys sort of did your part, and the Board of Selectmen did vote to accept the following day in a quickie special meeting, or might have been a couple days. Oh, yeah,
It was a
yes, they
regular
had it
meeting,
at their
yeah.
regular meeting. That was something else they had a special meeting for. The very next day, I amended and reposted the Plan of Conservation and Development with the accepted language and notified the Office of Policy Management. They have acknowledged it. And now the work on the ordinance begins, and the ordinance committee is having a meeting on Thursday to start discussing that, and hopefully we can make this tight turn, because the enrollment period, it opens on the 1st of September. So it's going to be, it's going to be a tight turn, but I think it can be done. I think that we figured out the timeline today, because Donna Hall asked me to sort of work that backwards. She's the recording secretary for the ordinance committee. I believe we have to have, ideally, we need to have a draft to the Board of Selectmen to approve by the first regular meeting in July. They have a little bit of wiggle room to do it as a special if they can't quite make it for the first Tuesday in July, because it has to go either to a town meeting or referendum. I'm not sure which is which, but that has public notice requirements. So you wouldn't want that to be any later than mid-August or so, so that the assessor can immediately begin accepting applications. Oh, somebody's trying to come in here. For the September 1st enrollment period. So that is where we are, but I'm pretty optimistic we can get it done.
I got a question on that. Isn't there a meeting Wednesday morning for the ordinance committee?
Thursday morning.
It's Thursday morning. Okay, I
Thursday.
thought it was Wednesday. And that's at 8 o'clock?
Yep,
That's this Thursday.
yep. Here,
8 a.m.
8 a.m.
Anything else on PA 490? Item 12B, 4 Watson Road. We have a communication that,
Yeah, I would like to read it because it was, I think it would be, the commission members would be interested in this because it applies not only for Watson Road, but it also applies to the property on 131 Global's property. I apologize for not reaching out sooner. My husband and I decided not to proceed with our project for this property, as the seller was requiring we sign a form enrolling in the Connecticut Transfer Act. This would essentially self-report the location to the Connecticut DEP for further investigation of potential contamination, and then put us as the buyers on the hook for any cleanup. That was very interesting information. And actually, Chair and I had met with another prospective buyer, and that was on 131. And I actually read this to that buyer so that they're aware of what they could be walking into. So that is that on that one. The next
That was
one.
the-
Oh, any
Item-
That
questions?
was the. Store things.
Yeah, that's your.
Item 12C, Lowell Davis,
Never been on it.
Lowell Davis Scenic Road, approval of conditions. So when this commission voted to designate a section of Lowell Davis Road as a scenic road, we attached several conditions to the approval, and Cindy has submitted this to us to verify that.
Did you read it? Did everybody read it?
Conditions
Any
have been met.
questions on my clarification of the conditions? Getting them, have any questions? Did I get it right, everybody? Or should I say, did Mr. Burge and I get it right? Oh,
So
I have to ask you.
Yeah, the conditions of approval include definition. It defines the right of way to the degree that pertains to stone walls. It includes Connecticut state statute. The most relevant part says nothing in this section shall be deemed to prohibit a person owning or occupying land abutting a scenic road from maintaining and repairing the land which abuts the scenic road if the maintenance or repair occurs on land not within the right of way, paved or unpaved of the scenic road. Condition 2 is that the area portion of road to be paved be clearly stated and identified. And the DPW director at the time had indicated from Wilson Road East to Interstate 395, area of dirt road near Airline Trail, make repairs to existing hill for proper drainage, rip out pavement and repave the dirt section. And item 3 was a breakdown of the numbers of property owners in favor and those opposed to the scenic road designation. And we have 27 in favor, 2 opposed, and 1 split house with 9 of responses.
So basically what I'm looking for is a motion that the conditions have been met and I can submit this, put this permit for scenic road in the record, call the highway department, order the scenic signs, and this does not have to go to the board of selectmen. And we, through communication, we figured that out, but there's nowhere it says it has to go to the board of selectmen once you approve it and once, so we're good. If you approve this.
A motion to approve planning and zoning number 2141 with conditions as stated.
Motion made by Mr. Rice, seconded by Mr. Krogel to approve the application 2141 conditions as stated. Any discussion on the motion?
So, okay, I'm sorry.
Hearing no discussion, a yes will approve, a no will deny. Mr. Hill.
Alvin Hill, yes. John Bielanky, I'm abstaining from it.
Jane Salsa, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Kaiser Levesque, yes.
Mike Krogel, yes.
Randy Blackmer, yes. Joseph Brody Brown, yes.
You can sign this and turn it to me.
I've got a pen. Always got it. Okay, before we move to item 13, I will move the addition of item 13B under new business. Joseph Ferrecchia, 15 Cora Lane, map 17, block 81, lot 41B, zone RRAD, 0.92 acres. Cindy, give this all to us.
Okay, so I wrote that
I mean,
out.
sorry, I should, so I've moved. Is there a second?
I'm going to second that motion.
Second by Mr. Rice. Any discussion? A yes will amend the agenda, a no will keep the agenda as written. Mr. Blackmer,
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Mike Kugel, yes.
Kaiser Levak, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
John Beasley, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Joseph Purdy Brown, yes. Ms. Dunn.
Okay, so I gave you the site plans here and Mark where he wants, he has the driveways there. And then he will make it,
Mr. Chairman,
driveway.
what are we acting on, A or B?
I'm sorry, I'm
Just
sorry.
add-
I'm sorry,
You're-
acting on A1.
Thank you, yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Rice. 13A, 151 Buckley Hill Road. Waiver, Article 4A, Section 3D, accessory structure to primary building. Sorry, Mr. Rice and commissioners. Thank you. So we are looking at the request for a waiver regarding.
I didn't put the regulations in here, but it is according to Article 4A, rural residential agricultural district, accessory structures to the primary building. And it reads, when the application is for new construction of the primary structure, the setback from the accessory structure shall equal or exceed that of the primary structure. Where there is an existing primary structure that predates the adoption of these regulations, the commission may waive the front setback requirement based on the physical characteristics of the site. So in this particular case, it is outlined on the geo map.
Didn't one of these things say it was connected to the house?
No, that's the next one.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm getting.
That's not connected to the house either. That would be parallel in front of the house. No. No, this would be, it has a 40-foot setback that's required. Front setback. And of course, your side setback, there's plenty of room there. And your rear. there's plenty of room.
It's all required.
Yes, that's.
If that meets all the requirements and it's, and with the regulations, with the original building already being there, I make a motion that we move this forward.
Second.
I don't know if they're here. So, and I told them I didn't think it was necessary.
Was a single story?
I didn't put the property card in. Doesn't look like it. That's unusual that I wouldn't put the property card in, I'm sorry.
Sorry, a motion has been made by Mr. Williams, seconded by Mr. Blackmer to approve the waiver for 151 Buckley Hill Road. Any discussion?
Oh, sorry.
It's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Yeah, that's not been much discussion at all, actually. No discussion of note. Sorry. Okay, hearing no discussion, a yes vote will approve the waiver, a no vote will deny. Mr. Blackmer.
Randy Blackmer, yes.
Mike Kugel, yes.
Kaiser Levak, yes.
John Rice, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Jane Salsa, yes.
John Beasley, yes.
Alvin Hill, yes.
Joseph Purdy Brown, yes. Item 13B, Joseph Ferrecchia, 15 Poro Lane, map 17, block 81, lot 41B, zone RRAD, 0.92 acres. Homeowner requesting to build a 24 by 24 garage parallel to the existing garage, which is in front of the existing residential structure.
So as you can see, when you're looking at the map geo, the house is on the right, and while we all know that map geo isn't really that accurate, but it does appear to be behind it. When you actually go and see it, it is behind the existing garage. So the existing garage is in front, and then they want to build another garage next to the existing garage, and that it would be 24 by 24, and the side setback, you would have 24 feet. And I think the side setback
Is he changing his access?
Part. No, they're not changing the access.
Because Para
And
Road is
actually,
pretty, Para Lane is awful tight.
Yeah, it is, but the driveway is right in the middle here. And this is what kind of pictures I took in the sun. Took the one picture.
It would be on the other side of this? Is that where?
Yes, it would be on the other side
of that. Okay,
yes.
okay.
The purpose of it is that their father moved into the residence, and they're building to store his car and excess stuff that he's bringing. That's their purpose. And again, they said that they probably did not need to come. I mean, I guess you probably need to let me know if you want these applicants, the people that are making this request to come to the meetings too.
I make the motion that we accept the application.
All requirements are met, right?
Yes.
I second that motion.
Motion made by Mr. Krogel, seconded by Ms. Salsi to accept, to approve the waiver for the construction of the garage at 15 Flora Lane.
I have one question on that
Mr.
one
Williams.
side setback, 24 feet. Is that a foot short of what it's?
No, it's supposed to be 20. It's 20,
Okay, I thought it was
regulation.
25.
No, it's the new regulation.
Okay, it used to be 25 then.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, a yes vote will approve the waiver, a no vote will deny. Mr. Hill.
Alvin Hill, yes.
John B. Linky, yes.
Jane Solcy, yes.
Ray Williams, yes.
Nice, yes.
Kaiser Levak, yes.
Mike Krogel, yes.
Randy Blackmer, yes. Joseph Brody Brown, yes. Item 14, citizens' comments. Mr. Clark.
Dave Clark, still at 105 Elm Road. Somewhere along the way, the town has moved to a permissive zoning model instead of a restrictive one. I don't remember this coming to a town vote, but the town planner clearly stated this at the September 27th Planning and Zoning meeting at the high school auditorium. The concept of a permissive rather than restrictive policy flies in the very face of the nation's founding fathers and the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights, particularly the 10th Amendment. In a permissive model, the town is forced to overregulate, as there must be regulation for any possible activity that a person might wish to do on their property that they supposedly own and pay taxes on. In a restrictive model, you only need to regulate those activities that are deemed not to be allowed. The people under the restrictive model are free to do as they wish as long as it does not collide with the rights of others or the law. When we move to a permissive model, we are forced to overregulate. When we overregulate, the people see this as an infringement and they stop following the regulations, which in turn becomes a burden on the town to enforce the regulations. Imagine, if you will, every property owner in town getting 11 chickens and not applying for permits. The same thing happens with excessive fees. People ignore them. Building permits within reason are a good idea, as they keep the property owner and their neighbors safe. But if the fees are too high, people simply don't apply for the permit, which is not good for anyone. When one needs to pay a higher fee to apply than a high fee to apply than a higher fee to appeal, the burden of the excessive fees is too much and the regulation fails. This happens, for example, every time the transfer station fee is raised. We see more trash dumped on the side of the road or on other landowners' properties. If you overburden the people will push back, either loudly through protest or silently through disobedience. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Valerie's got her hand up.
Ms. Clark? And then
So you may find it hard to believe, Valerie Clark, 105 Elm Road, that people in the 105 Elm Road household do not discuss what they are planning to present at the citizens' comments at the Planning and Zoning Commission. I have two comments. One also regards the permissive model. And my comment is that this is actually yet another Orwellian construction, and that the term permissive makes it sound like a good thing, when in fact it's actually bad. And I don't think I'm clear on why we, the town, adopted a permissive model. And I'd also be interested in hearing the Planning and Zoning Commission discuss the other towns in the state who may still have a restrictive model. I recently attended a regional agricultural conference, and planning and zoning officials from many towns were there, and they talked about how burdensome the permissive model has been to them. I would like to see us return to the restrictive model. My second comment is not regarding the Planning and Zoning Commission, but this meeting. And the technology, I spoke about it at other commission meetings, the technology that has been implemented, I have no idea how much we paid for it, but it is bad technology. And my ears are ringing because many of you may know the Pink Floyd song, Money, and the opening intro to that, where all you hear is the cash register ringing and opening and money coming out and the cash register closing. All we can hear in the Zoom audience is scraping and chinging over the microphones. And it's been put in the chat comments, and the response was that it must be papers being shuffled by the commission members. But the sound quality is horrible. I would encourage the Planning and Zoning Commission and the other commissions in town that are using this technology to adopt a different technology quickly, because this one is not working. You can't hear people speaking. They have to speak right into the microphone for anyone to hear them. And it just is ineffective, and it is very difficult to be in the Zoom audience listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Ms. Romero?
Brenda Romanek, Passay Road. I just wanted to piggyback a little bit on what Donna talked.
Yeah, you could come to the microphone.
I just wanted to piggyback a little bit on what Donna talked about earlier on the PA 490. I've been heavily involved in this, so I pretty much have a good idea, or I have people I can call to get the steps. But how does the average citizen know of all the steps they have to go through? Like, just take the PA 490, for instance. You mentioned where we were. How many more steps are there? And how can someone like Donna, who didn't know there was a subcommittee or special meeting where that was discussed, how many more steps are there? And how do we inform, well, us, me included. I'm heavily involved in it, but if I weren't, and this were happening with some other regulation, then how would we know? Is it just a matter of steps, or is everything we look for to have a different process? Meaning PA 490 or changing of a regulation? Like, it just seems, I'll be honest with you, it's just confusing. And, I'm not like slow. And I just feel as though even with the PA 490, as heavily involved as I've been, I don't know what's happening next. How do I find out what's happening next? All right. Does anybody know? Oh, or no question and answer. Oh, well, maybe you could tell me where would I go to get this information? Who would have it?
Commission comments are becoming up quite soon.
So, okay, yeah, any help you can give would be appreciated. Just just so it's not so confusing for those of us who don't live and breathe it every day. That was it.
Thank you, Ms. Romanek. Anyone else? Hearing none. Item 15, review of ZBA applications. There was no May 9th meeting. Item 16, commissioners' comments.
Sean just raised his hand. You want to let him in for public comment?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not really technologically advanced on the hand raising thing. So I was a little slow.
No worries. The floor is yours.
You know, I'm gonna make this suggestion again. I made it 3 or 4 meetings ago. I don't know how difficult it would be for this commission to put a regulation in as far as shooting ranges go, where it just mimics the state's regulations. There's been a lot of problems that have faced this commission that I think could be pretty easily taken care of. And I really don't understand why this isn't being addressed. It's a simple regulation. You mimic the state's shooting range regulation and you're done. And as far as this permissive, you know, it really goes back to that one line in your regulations, where if it's not explicitly permitted, then it's not permitted. Bottom line is, I think you've seen over these last few months, there's a lot of people upset. It's a simple line, remove it. And if you're not going to do either of these things, then you need to start answering why you're not doing them. I've said at a few meetings, I don't believe for a minute the way to go about changing these things is by blowing up this commission. I don't think that's the way to treat any disagreement. But there needs to be some recognition that simple things that could be fixed should be fixed. It's been said a number of times that evidently, and I don't know this for fact because I don't own chickens, that the minimum number of chickens that you can purchase at some places is 12. I really can't wrap my head around the fact that you haven't changed the number from 10 to 12. These seem like really easy things to do to show that you are understanding some level of frustration by the people. And so if you're not going to do these things, I, for one, would personally really love to hear why you're not taking these simple steps. And if anybody's wondering, the Celtics are up by like 23 points, which is why. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brissette.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to address some of those questions that have been raised before you go to commissioner comment? And I will try to address them in the order that they were raised. Specific to the permissive versus prohibitive model of zoning regulations. The prior regulations, which were before the 2020 update, were also on the permissive model. The bulk of the towns that have zoning regulations use the permissive model rather than the prohibitive model because it is more protective to the town. By describing permitted uses and then having the ability to amend to allow in more uses later, you're essentially covering yourself. If you start with only uses that are prohibitive and you fail to anticipate an undesirable use, then that use is legal until you prohibit it. And then anybody who pursues that not yet prohibited use is grandfathered in. And when we discussed this the last time this came up, which was I think last fall, the example we used was one of our favorite flogging horses, the paintballs, right? Yep. Everybody in that neighborhood hates that. But if we had the prohibitive model of regulation and that particular use had not been described as prohibited, then there is nothing to stop that. Whereas in the model that we have, where we describe permitted uses, and then we discover uses that fall in the cracks, we can add them later if we determine that it is a good use. So that is what that is. It is also what it was in the regulations that were adopted in 2012. It is a very common model. I understand that some people may disagree with that, but that is the reasoning. So when people ask that. And Sean, as to the question of why the commission has not addressed the number of chickens yet, every time we make an amendment, it is a public hearing process. That's why we try to do them in big clusters. Sometimes things come up which are very, very pressing and need to be addressed immediately. I would submit that that one might not be so pressing that it needs a standalone public hearing by itself. The commission may choose otherwise, and they could schedule one, but it is on the list of topics that the commission will be looking at for an annual update, which we try to target for September. So I hope that that is helpful. There might have been another question, but I've already forgotten.
Thank you, Ms. Penn. Item 16, commissioners' comments. Mr. Blackmer.
I don't know if everyone got Marla's email regarding the structure and whatnot. I sat through that May meeting, and I think that she had some real good points to make, that we should be utilizing expertise and not sitting around and what did we get through, one page or half a page? Well, out of the 2 hours that we spent, I think that would be well served to have some expert input on items with that caliber.
Thank you, Mr. Blackmer.
I have a question.
Mr. Krogel.
When we change regulations, are we missing something? Like this pot shop, for lack of better words, cannabis shop? Did that go to a town meeting, whether or not we did or did not accept to regulate that?
It was a regulatory change, so it was a public hearing
I
process.
thought we did, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, it was a part of a public hearing
Yeah.
process in last year's update.
Yeah.
Because there were legislative changes, quite a few of them that came out of last year's session.
Yeah.
And that was one of them.
All right. And the other question is, when we did the zoning, a lot of people are saying that they were not notified of the changes, like for this Route 20, Route 20, 131 and Route 12 changes to the. Did we miss something there that we should have been notifying people, or?
We were very careful at the time to double check with council that we were hitting all of our requirements. Now, that was during 2020, and there were some allowances made by the state that relaxed some of the requirements, but in compensation for that, we scheduled, I think, at least 2 extra informal, publicly noticed, essentially input sessions.
I know we had the sessions, but it's like when you're doing a local, I don't want to say amendment, but I'm sorry, I'm losing my mind.
Just okay, Mike, I know what you're saying.
Complete revision? No, when you want to do something on your property, you have to notify the abutters. Should we have sent out mailings to the people to let them know the changes were possible?
All I can tell you, Mike, is that we ran the process by and said, are we in compliance? And it was determined that we were, and we did more than we were required to do. That's the best answer I can give you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Krogel. Ms. Allison.
I agree with what Mr. Krogel said. Notification should go out. It eliminates problems down the road from anybody saying they didn't know about it. It needs, and it should be done on a regular basis, because people don't know and they find out and then they haven't heard about it, and then there is a problem. So notification should go out on anything. I don't care what anybody else does, but I believe this should be done so that it does not fall back on us. We've done and follow the procedures and go above and beyond so that the people do know what is happening and what is happening next to them or in back of them. So I agree with what Mr. Cogan said.
Thank you, Ms. Elsey.
Just a question.
Mr. Rice?
Jane, what type of notification are you suggesting?
Letters, form letters that can be sent out. And it used to be
To
done where
everybody in town?
No, to who it pertains to and who it affects. Joe Blow lives on 128 Happy Road. Sally lives on 126 Happy Road, but somebody that's on 124 is doing something. Those neighbors need to be notified as to what is going on so that they know, and it's through the mail. Where I used to live, that's the way it was done.
It's noted that public
isn't-
hearings.
It is, but I'm wondering about the distance that might have, what's the distance? 200?
It's within 200 feet of
Yeah,
of
but
an application.
I understand what you're saying, but I still believe we can do a little bit more to let people know what is going on. I absolutely firmly believe that. Go above what is needed and what is necessary to let people know what is happening. And it was done where I used to live, and it's just going one step above and beyond what is needed.
Yeah, but how did they do that? I guess my question is.
They did it through letters. The town hall knows where everybody lives. They
Yeah,
know
but
what's
how
being
far
done.
out? How far out are you
The
saying?
immediate neighbors, John, you're not gonna send it 10 miles down the road, but the immediate neighbors.
Well, time, yeah, just if I could just have a little order, right? So if we're talking about, amendment to the zoning regulations, that is every property in Thompson.
No, I'm talking about something that is being done that is close to somebody, like when somebody wants to do something and have something done there, they legally supposed to notify the neighbors as to what they're gonna do on the property. Like Mr. Deary with that B&B breakfast that he wanted to do. He did not
Notify.
No, he did not notify, which I think is a shame because everything else that was happening, but he didn't. It's the immediate neighbors. I mean, there were things done, heck, there were things done in my neighborhood that I didn't find out about until after the fact. I believe that when it affects your neighbors, there needs to be notification through the mail so that they know what's going on. And if it's coming from this commission, I think it needs to be done so that people know.
Can I ask a question here with this? First off, you have or make a statement. First off, you have the public hearing and you have the requirements of your 200-foot buffer. And that is the responsibility of the applicant to do that.
Yeah.
If you go beyond that, whose responsibility it is to do that? And if you're saying that it's the office, there is not enough hours in a day to do that.
It
I
doesn't.
can't even get my chickens taken care of.
Personally, I don't think,
It's like,
Mr. Krogel?
personally, I think it's just increasing the distance of the people, like.
well, then you
If
need a
something's
regulation.
being done at number 5, Walker Road.
Then we have to change
you
it,
should
right?
do- Yeah, we do. I'm just bringing it up to put into the people's
So
minds
move
right now, that's all.
But it's only for a public hearing. It's not for your site plan review.
No, it's
It needs
not.
to be approved by the commission. So.
I
That's
just
statute.
I just believe that there needs to be a little, let's put it this way, a little more communication as to what's going on so people don't get so upset because they don't find out about it until after the fact.
Well, it is on our website.
But not everybody can do the website, Alvin.
200
Maybe
feet,
put it in the
when
paper.
you're in,
that
when
not
you're in the
everybody
country,
reads the
200 feet
paper.
isn't very far.
You do the best that you can,
Yeah.
but notifying people by mail with somebody planning on doing something, I mean, that's.
If it's something significant, they would be notified. If you want
So,
to,
yeah, so I think this is,
Oh, we can talk until the cows come home.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that in some cases, we need to maybe go above and beyond what is done. So that people are beginning to see that we do care about that.
and so as we head to the next, amendment to the regulations,
Okay,
it's a discussion to be had, for
yeah,
sure.
okay.
Mr. Rice?
You brought up, I want to address Mr. Clark's comment about maybe rampant and raving, I guess. But my comment was, as you brought up with Mr. Deary's application, my concern was that if we didn't act and there was a about that the P and Z was going to be discontinued, he would have been automatically approved. That was my point I was trying to make. And that's why I say, in addition, his application was incomplete. So, I mean, I probably talked a little bit louder, maybe everybody was talking, but my point was the application was incomplete, so we ought to turn it down. I was concerned that if the P and Z was dissolved, it was an automatic that he got it. And I was quite surprised that he didn't apply this month.
No, there was no application.
So I don't know if, because
Yeah.
he's,
Yeah.
I'm
Maybe
I'm
Got the
told,
letter that
I'm
said-
told that he's advertising
He's just,
for the summer for rentals, so I don't know how he's doing that.
Well, he's doing it.
Yeah.
So,
But, sorry.
To address,
No,
to address Mr. Clark, that's probably why I raised my voice, is that the application was incomplete. That's why my point was.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Any other, Mr. Williams?
Just for Brenda's thing for the 490 and to let you know, it's, and I did read all of them, all
Yeah.
the different ones, just to
Yeah.
answer you what you were talking about. And like Tara said a little while ago, it went from the selectmen and now it's going to the Conservation Commission. They have to go through it.
Or ordinance.
No,
Well, the
Ordinance.
ordinance and then the
Yeah, yeah.
conservation, and then we
No,
should be
it-
all set.
Actually, that was the question I forgot, which was Branda's. So she had asked the process, so I will clarify the process again.
Okay, I
No,
thought it went from her to,
It never has to go to the Conservation Commission. They are advisory only.
oh, okay,
So-
all right, see, I was wrong too then.
Yeah,
I
so
misunderstood,
the
'cause I
planning and
thought I had it.
zoning's role is complete. You're done. The next step now, because the Board of Selectmen also agreed, and in other words, the two sort of mom and pop who have to agree the same thing for Junior agreed. And then the next step there is for an ordinance to be written. And the ordinance would include all the definitions, all the actual criteria, all of the legal stuff. Right, so that process will now formally start with the ordinance committee. And once they have worked that through, it will go back to the Board of Selectmen to be approved to go to direct democracy, whether that's through a town meeting or referendum. I'm not sure if it has to be one or the other, but it would be one or the other, with the goal of, yeah, personally, I prefer it at a referendum because people can vote all day, but whatever, that's not up to me. That's going to be up to whatever the process is. With the goal of having it all wrapped up in time for new applicants or applicants who have otherwise changed ownership to have access to the program by the 1st of September. So only the one ordinance committee meeting has been scheduled because they sort of schedule as they go. It's going to depend on how many subsequent meetings, but I have stressed to them that they really can't take much more than the month of June to get that done. So hopefully that will all fall into place.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Ms. Salzi.
Thanks for coming there, Father.
I just want to remind, I'm serious as far as I will be doing some homework on the dispensary. So if any of you have questions that you would like me to put out there when I go to visit the police and other areas and things, please call me. If I don't recognize your number, I won't pick up. Leave me a message, please, and I will get back to you so that any questions that you have, I can make sure they get answered.
Thank you, Ms. Salzi.
Can I just respond to Jane on that? Jane, I took a lot of notes of people who were speaking
Yeah.
for it, and so I will put that together.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Hill.
Yes. I would like to speak to Chapter Public Act 490. Just to bring our audience up to what I've been involved with. I went to the town clerk and I looked back to 1978. No discussion. Went to 1979, June of that year. The Board of Selectmen approved Public Act 490. Now, what was their responsibility? Several points. One had to go to an ordinance committee. There, back to the selectmen. And from there, their approval to a town meeting. the town of Thompson never had a ordinance committee until 2008. There was no public hearing. There was no discussion about Public Act 490 in 1978. And certainly up to that point when the Board of Selectmen approved Public Act 490, there was no discussion other than just they approved it. The assessor enforced it illegally. Now, what we've done is should have finally, after 40 some odd years, we're trying to follow exactly what statute required. Which first off goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission, where we look at the language, change our plan and commission, POCD. From there, it goes to the Board of Selectmen. There to the Ordinance Committee, back to the Board of Selectmen, then to a public hearing, approved. Then the assessor has the legal obligation to follow through on allowing the public to have, if they have more than 3 acres, that's underdeveloped, et cetera, et cetera. And then he can make a legal determination to that particular piece of property. So all this ping pong back and forth, we're just trying to clean up the mess that was created in a haphazard way and not in June of 1979. The question that remains is why was it followed at the beginning? The assessors at that time, until the latest person, he finally realized that there is no legal avenue for him to address Chapter 490, Public Act 490. Now, with all our efforts, it will finally go to a public meeting where hopefully it will be approved. Then he can, as of September 1st, those people who have it in their documents, it's not on the land reg, it's the person that holds on to Public Act 490. It's not actually the land, it's the person who owns that 3 acres plus.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. I would just add to a comment or question that was made earlier. The special meeting to act on PA 490 was we agreed to set a special meeting at the April regular meeting. We did not set a date at that time because of the uncertainty of whether that would be necessary or possible. And so the date was set later, but we did, at the April meeting, we had said we wanted to set a special meeting to ensure that it could get to the Board of Selectmen in a timely fashion to offer enough time for the process to be available to individuals for that September 1st deadline. And at that special meeting, all the commissioners had provided to them every document regarding PA 490 that we had, from the original language to very different proposals that had been submitted, the agricultural language, the Board of Selectmen language, our original language, and all that was available to all commissioners for that meeting. Mr. Rice.
I guess the question was, how was it advertised, that meeting?
In the typical notification maneuvers.
I don't believe that it was. I think because it was considered a special meeting and it was called at a last minute, it did not get advertised. And now I
No, it was noticed as legally required on
Yeah.
the website and
Yeah.
posted on the board out here.
Be
That
on
is
the
the legal
town clerk.
requirement.
Yeah.
So it's always on the website or the board.
And always
And the board, yes.
on the website and to the board.
And what is the correct website that you go to and it shows every?
ThompsonCT.org, the town's website, ThompsonCT.org.
And go under planning and zoning.
Yeah, go on, yeah.
I do it on the website. You can actually sign up, so it'll send you notifications for any town meeting. All you gotta do is click on the click on what what commission you want a notification from, and every time a meeting gets sent out, it'll send it right to your phone.
And just for you guys, some of us may not be really good with computers. We might be a little bit illiterate because we're older. Just so that you say we are legally doing it, just letting you know, some of us are older and we don't know all the ins and the outs of where to put everything.
So just to give you a little more context, the requirement to put it on the website, which I would say for more than half the population is the most accessible place, is relatively recent. Prior to that, the only legal requirement was posting it on a board out there. So if you didn't happen to walk through town hall, you didn't get it. So we are actually noticing more than we ever have because we have the technology available to us, which is not to set aside the fact that you might not be comfortable, but as Ray suggests, you can subscribe for updates and they will automatically come to you. So you can do that.
It works pretty good because that's what I do.
Where is that on the website?
I think you can do it right through the homepage, but I would have to look at it to be sure.
Well, no, so you have to do it. Well, we'll show you.
Item 17. Item 17, Planning and Zoning Commission, regular meeting, June 27th, 2022, at 7:00 PM here in the Merrill Snake Community Room, Thompson Town Hall, 815 Riverside Drive, North Grove, New Dale, Connecticut. Item 18. Motion made by Mr. Rice, seconded by Mr. Blackmer. The meeting is, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Yes.
I hear no opposition. The meeting is adjourned at 9:52 PM.